and you are listening to the Mantic Universe podcast. I'm Chris, and as ever, I'm joined by my good friend Clem.
Hi, everybody.
And my good friend Mark.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Yay, we're doing it, guys. So we did have a guest, but life happens. So we've had to, at the last minute, just move things around. You know, it keeps us on our toes. So we're not quite sure what's going to happen for Topic of the Month yet. So we're going to, obviously it was going to be an interview, but instead we're just going to get to that point and sort of freestyle it, right, Clem?
Yeah, I mean, hour 3.5 in, maybe we'll have come up with ideas by then. Who knows?
Fantastic. Super. And I just want to say as well, Mark, you've been putting out so much fantastic content recently, so many terrific episodes. If you look back how many episodes we've had this last month, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, it's been a pleasure. And today was supposed to be another one of those, but we'll try to shoot for March. So we'll get everything's rescheduled and we'll do it again. So, but hey, I think it's going to be great. So everybody's got to put up with us today, but you know, you never know. Steve Hildrew will bumble into the room here at some point, maybe. And, you know, I think it'll be fun. So I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot to talk about. So I'm ready.
There's a lot going on, yes. And I mean, I think the shorts are pretty interesting because they go in all directions. And I always enjoy also listening to MUP that I had no parts in. You know, it's like, oh, great, that's good content. And I didn't have to work for it. So
I love
nice.
Listening to the episode drops. Oh, there's a MUP and I didn't have to do anything. Fantastic. Super.
I had that experience with your second Wald episode. It's like it shows up in the feed. I'm like, oh, look at this. I didn't even know it was dropping. Cool. And I just hit play and it was a lot of fun. So yeah, I agree with you guys. And that's kind of the fun dynamic we've kind of sparked up. So we've got some great stuff in the pipeline coming too, folks. So stay tuned.
Yeah, to be honest, I was really excited to talk about it today, but we're not quite there yet. So don't want to say it's secret, but yeah, we'll keep our cards a little bit close to our chest, but very excited. And I've got to say as well, actually, as we're recording this, an episode of Countercharge dropped, which is the Brother Mark Army review. I've only listened to about 40 minutes of it, but I'm really, really enjoying it, and really interesting that they're using AI voices, which is very not something I was even aware you could do, if I'm honest, but very, very interesting. And of course, it's a way of avoiding that massive problem of getting someone to record the times, you know, the amount of time, and you know, that's a really, really hard thing to do. So very, very interesting, and a super interesting episode of Countercharge. So anyways, right, so dear listener, we're welcoming on the menu the bit that I regularly get wrong. So, and this is a real minefield as well, because it's we don't have our guests, so inevitably this will go wrong. So we've got our introduction. We're going to be talking Mantic news, our Warpath Firefight, our Warpath Deadzone, our Pannithor Kings of War. So hopefully that's the point at which Steve stumbles into the chat. Our Pannilore. We're going to be talking Epic Warpath lore / playing in Pannilore. Or are we? Who knows?
Yeah, who knows, right?
Listener questions. That is nailed down. We've got listener questions. That hasn't changed.
Some of them, yes.
And Topic of the Month, smiley face, freeform. So, you know, we'll see how it goes, dear listener. But, you know, we've put out a lot of content. We're going to have a good time making this anyway. It's just friends talking about toy soldiers anyway, right? So, and it's a little bit, Clem, it's us going back to our roots, you know, when we started this with absolutely no idea what we were doing. So, you know.
Sounds about right. Let me scratch my microphone a little bit to have shitty sound. Really to give the vintage flavor.
Why does everyone keep telling me to mute myself? What does that even mean? Fantastic. And I'll just mention very, very quickly. So we've got a bunch of fantastic promo codes to some great companies. The links are in the show notes. The highlights there, some of them: Mantic Web Store, discount code if you still haven't used it, Universe 15 of Fast Month 15. Game Mat EU, we've got 11% off, which is fantastic for game mats, obviously. Baron of Dice, Corvus Terrain, McDougall Designs. We don't have a discount code because their price is already so keen as well, but I just wanted to mention them on the show because Max does an awful lot for the community, and dear listener, if you're not going to support your local friendly gaming store, that's a very good place to go to still help out the community. And we have a Discord server, Clem. The link will be in the show notes. And
Right.
don't forget about Kings of War forum. And somebody actually posted an article in our Discord server. I've forgotten how to use words. In our Discord server to Kings of War forum, Clem. And it was a brilliant article. Do you want to just give the dear listener a taste of what that was?
I think you're on a roll. I will let you finish with that one.
So it was someone, and apologies, we don't have the name in the notes, but someone on the Kings of War forum had taken the army starter boxes, basically, so anything you're likely to get as a new player, and made a suggested build to get them started, which is, I think we all agree it's something missing from Kings of War. It has been, it's getting a lot better, but you've bought your first army box, you're really excited, you open it up, there's no build instructions. What do I do? So it's absolutely fantastic that we have resources like this, and people in the community are filling in the gaps for and helping Mantic out, right? Because it's absolutely fantastic. It's inevitably, it's not the optimum list, but it's something to get you started. And I think it's really, really cool. So loads of great stuff over at Kings of War forums. I'm sure Fred, our editor, will get some more adverts in the pod, and I'm very happy for him to do so. And I always love when it says no adverts, no commercials, and he does that, putting adverts and commercials into our podcast. But it's a small price to pay for editing.
It's a fair one. I mean, I think the forum is a good resource. It's always good to create content around the games we love, and for all of the interesting content that there is on Fanatics, for example, for Kings of War, it's a format that doesn't always work well for some type of content, and so I'm happy that there are other resources out there for more long-term articles or threads that deserve to survive over quite some time and not get buried by the algorithm with the latest stuff. So
yeah, great point, Clem. Super.
Yeah, but I really think this is a great article. We could use it as our topic of the month, but I've got some other ideas surrounding it too. It's just really interesting. This one really touches me. I mean, that, I've got the box. How do I put it together? How do I I don't even know about optimize, but, optimize my dollars, to put something together. So it's really good. So I really appreciated it. And we'll give a shout out to the author and things like that. So
I think it's not really about optimizing the list or anything. It's more kind of welcoming new joiners, because it is always a bit overwhelming when you get into a new system and you don't really know, am I making a mistake by building the dudes with the spear versus the bow or whatever?
It could be stressful, couldn't it, Clem?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, I know the system and it still stresses me out. And so definitely for someone who is kind of new and trying to get into this awesome hobby, having resources like this that kind of give you reinsurance. What about you just start with this first step and do it this way? And if you do this, you're doing nothing wrong, and then you can figure it out on your own later. I think that's a very important resource, and it makes it more welcoming and more open to more people. So that's really important work.
I remember you talking about this literally, well, it's getting on 2 years ago now, Clem, to be honest, when we first started making the pod. I remember this was a point you came back to a few times, and it's, great point. And I'm the sort of person that just sort of charges in with that, I'm all gas, no brakes, right? We just in life in general. But many, many people aren't like that. And even if you've come from another game system, you might find that really off-putting that there aren't these resources. And if you're brand new to the hobby, God help you, right? If you don't have this kind of thing where you've just bought this massive box of models, okay, what is all this stuff, right? So it's absolutely fantastic, and can't praise it enough.
Even if you're just thinking about it, right? Like before you even buy, like if I buy this €100 box, will I basically be set for a starter army, or do I need 5 of those? Or if you have no idea about the rule system itself, it's hard to kind of anticipate a little bit. And I think it's quite important. I started writing or drafting some articles with the same approach, but obviously there are tons of ways to do it. Yeah, no, I think I'm glad that someone is doing this work, and I think also it could be interesting if Mantic was doing it, but I think I prefer that the community is doing it, because then potentially more people feel free to come up with their own version, and it's not like there's just one official way to do it and that's what you must do. It's kind of like initially I was a bit sad that they don't like give terrain maps, for example, for Kings of War. And now I'm actually sort of happy that it's a bit left more open, and then everyone and anyone can do whatever they want. And so for this reference list, I think it's a similar topic.
Yeah, because we've had that conversation before, right, Clem, where I quite like the idea that Mantic will sell you a battlefield in a box, whether it's a Basilean one or an Abyssal one or whatever your faction is, Northern Alliance one, and then you're fighting in that area. But I think that's a really interesting point, is once you start doing that, and Mantic say this is the Mantic Forest or this is the Mantic Hill, there is I know I'll feel that very keenly, that feeling of, okay, well that's got to be the proper size for a hill because it's the one Mantic sell, right? Mark,
I just wanted to mention one of the things that I also really appreciate about that article was that he's got like the boxes that you need to buy and the dollar amount, how much it's going to cost. Of course, it's in euros, but that's all right. So it was really very interesting to see how it was all put together. So very, very cool.
We should have had this as topic of the month, shouldn't we?
Yes, I was thinking about that.
The article
it's good to start
say
with it. That's all right. But yeah, I think for the themed battlefields, I still think they should do something like this, like have some more resources. And I'm not sure this would necessarily block you from using the terrain you already got and stuff like this, but it would give some inspiration maybe. I don't know. It's I mean, when you think about it, in the starter set, like the 2-player starter sets, there are lists as well, right, Mark? Like all the time you can build the 500 points factions or something like this and do the mini campaign. And it's a suggestion, right? Like I don't think I've ever built any of these specific armies, and I still bought a bunch of those 2-player starter sets, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I bought every one of them. So I love those little booklets. That's the reason I buy them, is to get the little booklet with the army suggestion, and it gives you some lore, to kind of go with your set, and it's a nice way to start off. So I wish the instructions and stuff were a little better. They're starting to give you some assembly instructions, which is cool, but also the other thing I find, and I was thinking about this yesterday, was how to give new players access to the MDF bases they need to multi-base. I've got an idea.
If you're in Europe, I have a solution for that. Just under the jacket, like black market MDF dealer. Chris,
I've been having that conversation with a new local player as well, of getting the MDF basis. I'm saying go to the local tomb, as we call it in Germany, and get some cut. Sorry, guys, just to bring it back briefly to, not to dwell on the point too much, just to bring it back to the idea of Mantic approved hill sizes or whatever, right? I was thinking about what they do, because obviously they have a lot of sci-fi terrain. Well, of course, Mantic have a lot of smart people working for them, and they've done the sci-fi terrain in such a way you can do it however the heck you like. I wonder if there could potentially be a way they could do the same for fantasy terrain, where it's modular or something along those lines. But who knows?
Yeah, I think that could be one angle to it. They've obviously been doing terrain crate sets, which I think are relatively thematic, but also I guess they try to appeal to a wider audience. So I don't know if there could be a way to do this as well. Like, hey, fight a fight in Basilia, and it actually looks pretty okay if you want to play AOS with it as well. Because then it augments your potential customer base. The other way that I could see them do that is by kind of expanding their IP, like the graphical identity of the universes and places in Pannithor, and have commission some artists to do this and have kind of like a artistic direction around what does Pannithor look like. And then it's kind of up to, independent creators, maybe on their Patreons or Kickstarter campaigns, stuff like this, to create terrain that kind of matches the official aesthetic. And so Mantic doesn't necessarily have to fund all of this. What they have to do is to kind of be the leading voice, like, hey, this is what we put out there, this is what the universe looks like, and feel free to build your own tables or create STLs for people who want to, build a townhouse that would fit in Basilia or something.
I think that's a great point, Clem. I mean, they've sort of done that. I know they've got Luigi, who does a lot of their sculpting. I don't think he's a Mantic employee. I think he's a contractor from the sound of it. But he does a lot of their sculpting. But if he's unavailable or whatever, he doesn't have the bandwidth or whatever, they have a very firm idea of the style they want. So whether it's Luigi or someone else, it's all got to fit together. So I suppose that would be just a continuation on that. I think Mantic have already got that idea that it's all got to come together nicely, right? That it's all got to fit in the same universe. And I think we've seen that a lot, right, with the armies that have been coming out for the last few years.
Yeah, I agree. I think they still have kind of a role to play here by really keep pushing forward their IP and their universe and so on. And I mean, listeners already know by now that we really strongly disagree with people who say, oh, there's no lore in Kings of War, there's no lore in the sci-fi side of it. Like, we love this universe and we think it's some of interesting things to it. But I think having even more reference material and like more illustrations commissioned by Mantic itself directly, kind of to lead the way and show what it's like, maybe could create a healthy universe of people who create stuff for King's War, like fan-made illustrations or some STLs, remixes, maybe, who knows. But if you have like the skeleton or the base of what it should look like, then you can flesh it out yourself. As we discussed also, like, I like that the universe is not entirely fleshed out to the tiniest detail, and that I do have freedom to create some parts of it on my own. All I want is for some inspiration, right? Like, not just this is correct or this is incorrect.
And a reference point, right? A reference point. Yeah.
Yeah, a reference point.
Sort of the North Star. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, great point, Clem. Fantastic. Super. Right, should we move on to Mantic news?
One more quick thing before we move on, Chris, is that I wanted to mention about this list that Kudos put together here on the Mantic forum. Every army is there, and it's got the way to build it with Mantic models, which I thought was really cool, like the Herd even, and Kingdoms of Men, and boy, there's a lot of Frost Claws. So if you love that kit, boy, you can build a lot of armies. So, but I just wanted to give a shout out again. I mean, this is really cool. I think it's very valuable and pretty dang cool. So thank you so much for doing this. Kudos, whoever you are.
Kudos to Kudos.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really is a key missing piece of the puzzle that's now filled in. Fantastic. Super. So Mantic news. Is there a Kickstarter going on at the moment, guys?
I think there are plenty of them, but I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Yeah, you're talking about Duncan Rhodes' Two Thin Coats third wave edition of paint?
I'm actually backing some kind of modular model storage box for about $50. Looks good. 3D, you can 3D print it yourself. Yeah. That'll do for Mantic news, guys. Yes. So
I think Mantic's running this minor Kickstarter that we have little to no interest in whatsoever, right, Clem?
Yeah, no strong opinions either way on it, really. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not something I check every other hour to see if we've reached the stretch goal for GCPS. Not at all. And by the way, we're getting pretty close. It might actually go through while we record this. Just saying.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look right now, Clem, because I think we passed the GCPS level. So I think we're coming up on, let's see, we're at 200. I don't know. This says 280,000. So I got to convert that to pounds. That's why I keep being a little bit off on my predictions.
If you click on the small dollar symbol, it will tell you in pounds.
£221,000 at time of recording.
Okay.
With 4 days to go, dear listeners.
There it is, down on the bottom. Okay, so 221. All right.
So, guys, just £1,300 each. Like, up your pledge right now, and we do it.
Well, the cost of some of the models, it might get pretty close to that. But, with everything I want, which is everything. So, yeah, we should be getting really close to the GCPS, though. So, yeah, £225,000, and the GCPS are all ours. So,
for me, the sweet spot is the captain pledge. I think if you're, for £150, that's a fantastic deal. But then, of course, you're going to need some nice terrain, hard plastic terrain to play with it. And then, of course, it's not that much to add another faction, and then you add another one, and suddenly
another one
for £500. Yeah, exactly.
No, that's kind of the risk. I think for me the deciding factor also is so I was kind of already thinking, okay, I'm gonna go in for 3 factions. So I take the whatever it's called, Luton pledge with 4 boxes or whatever, and then I'll add the STL packs for all 3 factions. That's kind of a big bump to the pledge, but I'm gonna do it because I have a resin printer and I know I'll make a lot of cool tiny dudes for it. And now I think they've merged all of that stuff into just one entry, like the all-in STL, and then it's for all unlocked factions, and suddenly it's a lot more interesting. Like, there's no question for me, you do want to have the STLs. Anyway, I'm a fanboy, so it's 10 mil Mantic. Who am I kidding?
I mean, I would say, so I'm really excited about this. It's fun. It's clearly fantastic. I already don't play enough Armada. I've played Armada a couple of times, and I've got 4 fleets for Armada, right? Most of which is sitting in boxes somewhere. So it is, I already feel like we don't play enough Firefight. So this is all amazing. I'm very excited about it. I'm just looking at the little Forge Father drop troopers and go, oh my God, this is so super, super cool. But again, it's, so much universe, so little time, right, guys? It is something Steve talks about a lot. Like, how do you guys have the time? And the truth is we don't, right? Already. Yeah. And there's also Halo coming soon, and that also looks really, really good. It's this is really exciting. It's really, really cool. But I am starting to feel that, this is...
I think for me, it just hits a special spot. I completely agree with you. Like, it's true about there is only so many days in the month, even like evenings in the month or Saturdays in the months where I can go and play games or paint toy soldiers. And I guess, like a lot of people, I could stop buying any miniature today and not be bored with what I have for quite some time. That is definitely a factor. Now, having said that, for me personally, the smaller scale sci-fi is really something I was looking forward to. So I'm definitely going in with a slightly larger appetite. Like, I'm already allocating a couple of months, probably more 3 months worth of my hobby budget onto this. But obviously, yes, it's kind of I would say personal preference for this. And it doesn't mean I will stop playing Kings of War or I would stop playing Firefight, but I know I will definitely enjoy painting these small dudes, and I know they will fill me with joy once they arrive and once I put them on the table. So I don't know. I think honestly, Armada, I think it's an interesting game, and I do have a couple of fleets. I don't really miss not playing it more often. If that's a fair way of saying it.
I think it would be likely we would had we played more of it, because we literally only played a couple of games, which I enjoyed. Mark?
Oh, you're just catching me there, Chris. Hey, I just wanted to mention about where I'm at with my pledges and stuff like that. So I'm kind of tied in with Clem. I just, it's small scale, it just kind of scratches a particular itch. And I'm at the captain's pledge myself right now with 4 armies. I don't know if they're going to up it, to where you can, grab everything. I'm not sure. I think I'm going to go with the all STLs. on top of that and not getting any of the resin prints. That's kind of where I'm landing at the moment, and it should be fun. So I'm really, really looking forward to it overall. And it just, I'm still going to do Firefight, and I'm still going to do that, but there's just something special about the little guys. I don't know why. So, but so I'm looking forward to it. They should be easy to paint and, put on the field and, just have some fun with. So I'm hoping that we can get all the way up to the nameless and get them unlocked. That's from a dollars perspective.
That's
we were
massive
doing
to
right.
me.
Yeah. But
I think
pounds.
I think I want the Captain Pledge. I love the nameless. I'm very interested in the terrain for £100. I mean, that's a lot of money, but it does seem to be a lot of nice-looking terrain, and
it's a big pile of plastic, from what I understand.
And I do like for my games to be in the Mantic universe, right, rather than just random terrain,
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I'm not sure I will get any of the terrain yet. I mean, they added a couple of free sprues, I think, now to the pledges, so I will get some of that terrain. I don't know. Like, I feel like I want to create my own stuff a little bit for these tables, because one side that I also like about 10 mil, especially when you play it on 6x4, is that you do have a lot of real estate, and so. When you're building a Kings of War table on a 6x4, you can maybe put one small farm or something, or like one wizard tower, a small forest, and that's about it. Like it's a pretty small slice of the world. Similar for Firefight, like you can have a tiny part of a research lab or a factory or something, or a military outpost somewhere. On a 6x4, well, you have 4 times more space, or maybe even more than that, right? Between 4 and 9 times more space, depending on how you adjust the scale. And that means I think you can get a lot more creative with having a very cool looking, research lab or like military airport or whatever. Really create some immersive scenery.
Oh, Clem, you're killing me by saying this. You're getting me so excited about the potential for that. That's that hurts. But
can you imagine the cool stories you can tell with this stuff? I mean,
it could be so cool, couldn't it?
And or like the stories that we discussed like a few days ago about like planetary stuff, or like on a city level. It's not just like you have 2 or 3 buildings. Like you could really create something that does have an identity, and that does really look like, oh no, it is an actual research lab. Here is the storage area for it, and here is the entrance to the bunker, and here is the heating power plant, and something like this. Like something that really has an identity.
Off the top of my head, Clem, so let's say, for example, there's a plague outbreak on a GCPS planet. So that obviously plague and GCPS, we feel like that's a real classic, fight. So it could be, one part of the map there could be a starport, another part of the map there could be the city, and then you could have kind of the military GCPS compound. So it could be that the outbreak starts at one particular part of the map. Maybe it starts at the city where the population are getting infected. Maybe the GCPS in the first turn, they're not aware what's going on. Maybe they're slow to react. Maybe there's some limitations on what they can do round 1 or something. But it could be, well, if the plague takes the starport, then obviously people aren't getting out or something like that. So you're absolutely right, Clem. So the stories you can tell with that are really exciting. That's really, really interesting. And that's just in 5 seconds off the top of my head. The stuff that you can come up with all the different factions. It's really exciting.
A lot more rich terrain, I think, in tables. And so it's true that I also want to tell stories within the Warpath universe. And so it kind of makes sense to have some of the buildings that they offer for it, and like some of the plastic sprues that let you build buildings for that universe. But I feel confident that I can also laser cut some of the stuff, or like use, the good old yogurt pots, painted trick and cool stuff. I think there's also like a creative, interesting side to building your own terrain. And so the sprues for me are one tool in this whole journey. And right now, if I have the choice between getting a couple of more core boxes to have even more plague or even more GCPS if they get or when they get unlocked, I think I'll go for the armies first. But I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting thing to think about.
I'm Brandon Rossbond of Winged Hussar Publishing, and you're listening to the Mantic Universe Podcast.
This is Max McDougall saying, so much universe, so little time.
That is interesting. And it doesn't necessarily require a lot of ongoing support necessarily, because you can get an awful lot of bang for your buck with this campaign. And you could just say to yourself, I'll buy a load of stuff now, but then it's just that's complete. My collection is then complete. And then there's no pressure, necessarily to buy new stuff every month. Mark.
Yeah, I was just looking at the website, running some numbers there. That 475-pound pledge, although a lot of money, is, starting to look a lot better because they threw in all the STLs. And, so, if you're getting the captain's pledge and you throw in the terrain and you throw in all the STLs and, it's looking better. Yeah. I mean,
you're getting close to it. Absolutely.
You're getting close. I mean, you're going to pay about 101 pound for all of the resin for 4 armies. So that's, a little better, probably 60% discount. So that is looking a lot better now that they threw the STLs in there. So,
I mean, yeah, I think there was a bit of a sticker shock or something, when the campaign came out, because I got into this thinking, I'm going to go all in. And then I saw 475 pound and was like, that is a bit much for all in. So let's take the lower one and add some bits to it and see where this goes. And I guess a bunch of people had a similar reaction. I don't know. Whereas I think if there was like something in between the 150 and 475 pledge, I probably would have taken that in between level. I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, one of the other things is, okay, so let's say there's 6 factions unlocked, what am I going to do? Just add on 2 plastic armies, and then there's supposed to be, the resins and things like that. So I'm not quite sure exactly how that goes. So that's why I parked on the captain's pledge, and I'm kind of waiting to see how the evolution takes place, because it is, you're getting daily reveals. Now we got the all-in STL pledge, what's coming next. So to see what we can use to power it forward, because I don't know. I mean, maybe the all-in pledge comes once they figure out, how many armies they're going to have and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting going forward. So, for sure. I mean, even if all 8 are unlocked, maybe you have to do 2 captain's pledges and the all-in STL and, get a terrain set, and that would give you everything. So, but maybe they can put a pledge together with that. I'm not quite sure, but, so I'm waiting back, and I'm just kind of waiting and seeing how it all kind of puddles along. So I think a lot of people are probably doing that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see in the final day or final hours, when people actually have to make a decision to jump in or not, because I have the impression that a lot of people are still a bit on the edge. Because I think there were 6,000 people following the campaign before it started, and we're at like 1,500 backers right now. So I have the impression that there's still a bunch of people on the edge. So yeah, I'm curious to see what these folks will do.
Well, I think part of it too is, do you require the resins and all the add-on packs to play and build a decent army? If it was just all plastic, and you were just buying an army for 35 pounds or something like that, I mean, that's an easy jump in. So,
the videos that they've shot, it's only with the plastics. I mean, obviously right now it's prototypes 3D printed, but it's only the content of the core boxes, the core plastic boxes. And when you look at what is in there, like the diversity is pretty good. Like for each faction, you do get a good selection of units. And sure, I do want the reinforcements as well, because I'm a fanboy and I want all of it. But I think if you want to, stay on the kind of a lower budget or like lower investment, if it's like your 5th game and you're not too sure, you don't know anyone locally who would want to play with you, like what is the pledge level name? I don't remember. Like the 89 pound pledge level, I believe. You have 2 armies and the rule book and all the tokens, all the dice and everything. It's basically a 2-player starter sets, except you have 2 full armies with it. So I think it's a pretty decent deal. I don't know. Again, I'm kind of the core audience anyway, so I'm a bit biased.
Pledge. I mean, I think because it's not in front of our eyes. I mean, we're seeing photos, but I think it's difficult to conceptualize quite how many models this is. I think this is a huge amount of models. I mean, as you said, Clem, so the £89 Lieutenant Pledge, over 310 miniatures. I think it depends on your faction why it's over 310, not exactly that. That's an awful lot of models plus the rules, as you said, Clem. I mean,
they're tiny. I mean, for me, it's not just about the amount of models because they're tiny and so on. It's more, if you get this, you do have a fully contained game, right? Like you could consider, okay, I already have other stuff on the side, or I'm not too sure if I will find a friend who will be willing to play that with me and so on. Well, at least if you get this stuff, you will get to enjoy the hobbying side on your own, like painting these 2 armies. And then you know that you could host interesting games with just that, and you don't have to put too much more money into it. So yeah, I don't know. I think even if you're a bit on the edge, still offers pretty good value to begin with like this. And the other thing is, from what I understand, they will open the pledge manager like a few days after the campaign ends. And in the pledge manager, which by the way, interestingly, is their own custom development, you will be able to adjust what you actually want to buy. If you somehow decide you want more stuff than what you pledged for in Kickstarter, or maybe your paycheck arrived, or maybe there's a different payment option. I mean, that's true. Like they're running the campaign over 15 days, so it's not a lot of time. Like if you're not really following what's going on and you didn't plan for a hobby budget for it, there's no way a normal person can drop £300 on something, right, out of the blue. So by having a bit more time with the pledge manager, maybe they will also open up more options for some people who didn't necessarily anticipate, oh no, I actually love those tiny skulls and I do want a bit more than just a base pledge. I want to add a couple of more boxes. They will be able to do that later as well.
Funny you mentioned that, Clem. And so my 3D printer, my plastic 3D printer, managed to finally it destroyed itself. It's been on its last legs for a really, really long time. And yeah, 3D printing is really important to me, right? Printing terrain for tables and making my tables look nice. And as I'm getting into the hobby, that's getting more important to me rather than less. So my printer broke, and then I was literally, okay, right, I've got to get a new printer. So spent, let's say, 260 something euros on a new 3D printer, which is, as far as 3D printing goes, pretty modest for what you get. But it's obviously that's quite a lot of money, And then printed the test model, absolutely fine, all great. So left it going overnight, and the belt on the I think it's the y-axis snapped in the night on my brand new printer, and it destroyed itself. So the extruder was completely destroyed. Oh God, how am I back to this, having a broken 3D printer after spending 260 euros? But there we go. But it's printing. I need to. Anyway. So in conclusion, I think I'm a little bit sensitive because I had that massive expense that was unexpected.
Yeah. I mean, I had car expenses as well, so it's not like it's eating the hobby
Life
budget.
Happens. Yeah.
But it makes you think a bit more carefully about, hey, I have some extra income that I can splurge a little bit in this. But yeah, in this particular case, I am still putting my foot down, and I am tapping into the hobby reserves and getting what I want with it.
Oh yeah, I'm doing the same. So.
I think Halo's coming shortly.
Absolutely.
And I can't picture myself, knowing me as I do, dear listener, I can't picture myself going, nah, I'll skip Halo. Is that going to happen? Nah, come on.
Oh, Steve, welcome. We're just getting started. We haven't even started Mantic News.
Well, we're in Mantic News, kind of.
Well, we're in Mantic News, right, but we're barely started.
Hey, friends.
Somebody marked the time down for Fred.
It's not a bust. Anyway!
Well, Welcome.
So it doesn't look like on the audio, but we wave at you. We love you, Steve.
We wave. You wave. Let's
there
wave.
you go. We'll wave our hands.
Hello, Mr. Hilderoo. How are you, sir?
I'm all right. Thanks very much. I'm a little
Thank
bit tired.
you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. I like to grace you with my presence. I don't cancel at the last minute. So
You
I
like to grate us with your presence. Yes, that's very accurate.
I uncancel at the last minute, which is when I said I'm not going to come, and then I do, just because I'm cool like that.
How lucky are we, and how
right?
lucky is the dear listener to have Steve Hilderoo here, the man, the myth, legend.
Yeah. I've just remembered I literally went to plug in my camera so I could wave at you, and then I remembered that I left this memory stick plugged into the computer, which I'm supposed to have plugged into my 3D printer. And then I forgot to. So when you guys start talking about like boring Deadzone or whatever, I'm going to go and plug that in.
We're right in the middle of it. Like, so what's your pledge for Epic Warpath, Steve? We were talking about 3D printers 3 seconds ago as well. So.
I mean, sci-fi. Who plays that? Unless it's Halo.
Unless it's Halo, yes. Steve, I did just mention Halo, and also just to keep your morale up, and we're skipping ahead, apologies, dear listener, but I'm pretty certain none of us have actually played any Firefight or Deadzone this weekend. So, or this month rather. Sorry, dear listener. So I suspect we'll skip over that quite quickly, and then we'll be talking about, Kings of War, things that involve Mr. Hilderoo.
I'm embarrassed for you not having played such a magnificent sci-fi game.
Quite right. That's the spirit. Super. So, in conclusion, I don't know what I'm going to do with the Kickstarter, but I've got a couple of days to decide. Who knows? So, I'm excited for the Nameless in conclusion. So, Ronnie 2024 update. There wasn't a huge amount on it, and I've got to be honest, I skipped over it. So, Clem, unless you've got anything to add, or Steve, you've got something to add, I might just skip over that part.
Don't know. I didn't listen. I think whatever Ronnie said was great. What a great guy. How's that?
Perfect. Thanks, buddy.
We
would encourage the dear listener to watch it because we didn't. Clem, do you want to save us or not?
I think I've seen the stuff, but I'm still waiting to see some new art for the Forces of the Abyss at this point. That's what I really want to see. From what I understand, Mantic lately has been working extremely hard to get the Kickstarter going, and they're still working their ass off, like you can tell, right? And I also believe that Halo is huge for them. I personally have about Steve level of interest in Halo.
Steve's really excited. He loves Halo.
No,
but
for sci-fi. Like I feel like
for sci-fi. Oh, I see.
But
how much I'm interested in Warpath, you're interested in Halo.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes.
That's okay. We're allowed to like different things.
Absolutely.
Obviously you're wrong, and I'm right. But I mean,
I was trying to support you here, but no. So what I'm saying is, I can understand the circumstances that lead to. We haven't seen much new stuff for Kings of War lately, but I'm eager to see what they will come up with. And the Trial Realm is getting closer and closer. It's April, right? So,
Yeah, quite right. I mean, it does feel, with Walking Dead coming back, so it's not new, but the Commonwealth models certainly are. Halo, we know, is coming very soon, and the mini Warpath game. It's a lot of new games to be throwing out there in quite a small window, it seems.
Yeah, it must keep them busy, right? So that's
yeah, but as a consumer who already has a lot of fantastic Mantic games, am I just grumpy tonight, guys? What's the?
No, I think I think it's genuinely a problem with Mantic Games is that they bring out new games and often it's the same players buying the new games, right? And I think the Epic Warpath is going to have that issue in that everyone that's buying it is already a fan. That's my opinion. I think where they kind of break out is where they do stuff like The Walking Dead and Halo, which attracts a whole load of gamers who don't play Mantic games, and that's exciting for me, because these big licenses are what bring in fresh blood, if you like. I think Epic Warpath really appeals to a really specific demographic of people, which is people that loved Epic 40k, and have really fond memories of that, but aren't playing Epic 40k or whatever the big robot. What's the big robot one they play? Adeptus Titanicus.
Yeah.
They don't play that and are a bit disenfranchised with GW games. So there's a specific demographic it's appealing to, and that's awesome. It may not blossom into a full-blown game. Maybe it's fantastic. I don't know. It's got Alessio Salvatore working on it. By the way, when I was in Mantic Games the other day, setting up UK Masters, I saw Alessio Salvatore through the crack of Matt Gilbert's office. And I said loudly and excitedly, "Oh my God, is that Alessio Salvatore?" And Matt Gilbert turned around and booted the door closed in my face. I'm like, oh.
I'm not convinced he heard you say that though, Steve. I think he just saw it was you. And
yeah, that's true. That's true. So there's looking at those, there's 1,500 backers, which is a good number, but it's not. Walking Dead number was massively above that, wasn't it?
It's not. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. It's not breakout. It's not breakout success that you're talking about, is it?
But I think it's got them 221k, which is enough to make the game and to push it out. It was something people wanted. I think it's something Ronnie really wanted to do, and that's really fun. So I'm glad it's been successful. I don't think it's going to be a huge, massive hit, but the more attempts you make at this sort of thing, the better, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'd be interested with Walking Dead and Halo and things. Be interested how much of a cut you have to give to the license holder, but that's neither here nor there.
I'll put it on my list of things to ask him. Hey, he'd probably tell us. You never know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but there we go. But yes, Walking Dead's coming back. At some point, I'll get Clem to play a game of it because it's really good. It's really good game. But again, it's all time, isn't it? But
it sounds like it has cool mechanics. But yeah, it's a question of time. And I'm not a huge fan of the universe to begin with. Like I have nothing against it, but it's not like something like, oh my God, I really want to play a game in that universe. And so I think that's one motivation that I do not have for it. So that's probably one thing. But yeah.
Super. Should we talk briefly about Mantic Vault?
It's not a bust.
Right.
So what can we talk about?
Yeah, we don't really know for March yet, right? I think last time we already discussed what was coming for February. Have you printed any of it, Steve?
Yeah, I've printed tons of the Vault. In fact, with the
no, I mean from February's.
Oh, February's. What was February's? Look,
Salamanders and
Nameless and Salamanders. Yeah.
No, because I am not a Salamander player. And I don't need any Gribblies, and I've been painting lots of Basileans. I painted, let's see, what was the, not yet, till my attention span shifts once again, which is a worry for me. I've painted lots from the January Vault I printed, because there was Basilean stuff in there. So I printed 3 of the Arbalests, which are my bolt throwers for my Kingdoms of Men, and I took Julius, and I scaled him down to fit on a 20mm base. So he's my... fanatic, what are they called?
The Redeemer?
No, it's in Kingdoms of Men. It's hang on, give me 2 seconds.
The hero.
Yeah, it's one of the many Kingdoms of Men heroes, the fanatic instigator, and I've given him the wings of the honey maze. So that's my Julius. So I just scaled him down and made him that, which is quite fun. And so I printed lots of that, but nothing from February. No, and I haven't seen any. I did see like a teaser bit for the March release, and I couldn't guess what it was. So someone pointed out that it's coming up to 12 months of the Vault, right? Because it started in May 23, and there'll be the 12-month reward at that point.
That is probably true, yeah, because we got the Hellfane 5 months ago, something like this.
That was a 6-month reward.
That was a 6-month reward, so there should be a 12-month reward pretty soon. What do you want as a 12-month reward, Steve?
Oh, what do I want? I don't know. A bust. I hope. I don't know really. I'd like them to do some buildings in the Vault, but I don't know if they will. It'd be really cool. I was thinking about this because I've been looking a lot at Terrain Crate for reasons, and they've got some really cool packs there, but they're all kind of little bits, aren't they? Because they make them out of that bendy plastic. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if in the same way they made all those big hard plastic sheets for the Deadzone terrain, that we had some like a Basilean township and like some elf citadel stuff that you could then so you can actually create a Kings of War board that's themed in Pannithor. That's one of the things I hope they do.
So we had almost the exact same conversation, or the same topic, general topic, before you joined the call, Steve. So there we go. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry to be so repetitive.
Oh, not at all.
I was listening to you, actually. I just copied.
Yeah, you were hiding
pretend
behind the bush. Yeah,
Steve, don't copy our homework. Are you mad?
That's how bad it's got.
Super. But I mean, just looking at the latest stuff available, the rhinosaurs, it's amazing stuff, isn't it? It really, really is. Stuff. Super.
But so Steve, are you building tables or planning tables for Clash of Kings or other tournaments?
Oh, let's save that for the Kings of War section, guys. Surely.
Okay.
Aren't we in the Kings of War section right now?
We're not in that section.
No, we're in Mantic News, which has taken over the whole pod the last couple of episodes.
Oh.
So, Dungeon Saga Origins has arrived with language packs, Clem.
Yes, so the language packs have now been delivered, and I got all of the things, and I'm quite happy with it. I almost played it with some colleagues. Didn't work out, but I'm really eager to play it again. It's a really cool game.
Painted the models up?
Not yet. No, I'm still building terrain. I was building terrain for my tournament, so that's why I was asking Steve for on a different level. Like I'm really like a baby mouse compared to you, Steve, but still I'm trying to learn from the greats.
No. Every little helps.
And so not painted yet, but at some point. And so that's I think that's about it for the news. Were there any other news that we missed, Chris?
Oh, Clem, don't ask us questions like that. The dear listener will be going, guys, there's loads more stuff you've missed. Almost certainly there is, but it is what it is. It's the mock charm.
Yeah. Similar to,
I love the fact we're all looking as if we're thinking about this. Like, oh, what else is there? What can we talk about? No, we're not going to die on this hill, guys.
I was more thinking about the fact that as soon as I turned up, Mark Zielinski left. What do they say?
We didn't.
You saw your face and you thought I need to take my kids.
Slam the door shut.
He's a renowned spiteful man, isn't he? He's full of venom. Yeah.
It takes someone as skilled as you, Steve, to turn Mark Zielinski into a beast full of venom. That is true.
Turned Mark Zielinski evil. Oh no!
I don't want to say it's a talent, but it is unusual.
Pretty good.
It's unique.
I'm proud of myself.
Quite right. Hey, Steve.
Hey, hi. What?
December, because it must be Christmas for you. Clem, do we have any Warpath, Firefight, or Deadzone to discuss?
Oh.
I don't think we do. I definitely want to because Steve is here, and there's nothing I like more than bore Steve to death. But honestly, I don't think so. Like I've been trying to plant seeds locally to get the next iteration of the fast map to be with sci-fi stuff in preparation for our gaming day of the 20th of April, Chris, as you know. That looks pretty good. Like a few people have bought some Firefight stuff locally, like a few new people, I mean, and hopefully are building some of it and will paint some of it at some point, and so also can play 500-point games. And that's about it. Oh no, I also brought some of the Deadzone terrain back home to actually airbrush it because I found a recipe that looks pretty good and that I'm happy with. And so I have this, back on top of the to-do list. After 80 goblins, I have Deadzone terrain.
Yes, tick. Well done, buddy. Well done. Hang on. Before I go into that, Clem, any news on the Freedom Fighters? Your local narrative campaign. How are the Freedom Fighters getting on? Is that all kicked off?
Yeah. So the folks have been playing games. I haven't assembled the additional new guys for my team, so I haven't played a game in that campaign yet. But they're definitely going with it, and people are building their strike teams for it. So yeah, it is definitely going.
I'm sure you mentioned it on the last monthly, Clem. Which faction did you go for?
I decided to take GCPS, although I already have quite a few of these, because I wanted to assemble some more, like some diversity in loadouts for my specialists, And I thought that will be helpful for armies, my firefight armies as well. And so it's kind of like two birds with one stone. Like it's the same set of miniatures to play two games, which is always a nice thing to do. And I also realized, you know what? I love my GCPS, and I want to keep expanding them to begin with. So there's no shame in selecting a faction that I'm already basically capable of playing in the campaign to just do another strike team for it and keep expanding on top of it. So yeah.
I can just imagine you looking at it going, I suppose I might do a few Forge Fathers. Nah, I'm just doing more GCPS.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I can do some Forge Fathers is in 10 mil. And that will probably happen. Like, I think I will end up getting a core box of every faction, just because at that point, might as well. But in 28 mil, there's no way. Dwarfs are not my thing.
Clem, I was imagining we would do 2 army boxes per faction. So, for example, 2 Forge Fathers boxes, 2 Asterion boxes. Did I just make that up, or was that a thing we were talking about?
So, well, we're back on Epic Warpath right now, obviously. That's what I will do for Plague, for example, because in my head, Plague definitely needs the numbers. Although from playing Firefight, I'm not sure I will behave in Epic Warpath, obviously, but in Firefight, the small Gribblies are just a monster delivery system, and what actually wins you the games, or like what actually does the heavy work, is your monsters. So you probably don't need that many numbers. But yeah, definitely for my favorite factions, I will get 2. But from what I understand, with just 1, you're already pretty well set, especially with the STL reinforcement stuff, right? Like I think you can have a pretty solid core with the hull plastic and print some reinforcements if you want to, and you already have like 2,500 point armies just with 1 box. Does that mean I will not get 2 plagues? That would be not knowing me, right? Like I'll get 2 plagues, 2 GCPS, and move on from there.
Mr. Zielinski.
Well, I was just taking a look at that, and it's like, boy, the Plague faction has like 250 models or something like that. Some of them are much smaller than that, like the Asterions, but that's a lot of minis. So, but I agree about picking up the extra plastic sets, because that's exactly what I'm thinking about doing. They're 35 pound here, on the Pledge Manager, and it's like, man, I can't print those, if I get the STLs. So I've got to get the plastics. So definitely something to think about. But
I mean, I want to do some Mason Labs, hopefully at some point too. Although they will probably not make reinforcements for Mason Labs, at least not right away. So yeah, you mean Plague and GCPS? You kind of want to. It's like someone who wants to go into Vermin and is thinking of getting just 1 core box. It's like, what are you even doing? Like, it's Vermin. You need to have too many rats, otherwise you're not doing a Vermin army, right? Same for Kingdoms of Men, Steve. If you don't have too many fanatics, it means you're not doing it right.
Sorry, you've blindsided me with some Kings of War talk in the middle of Warpath.
Yeah, I saw you were starting to snooze and falling asleep.
I was reviewing my Anki deck.
That's all right.
What's an Anki deck?
An Anki is it's a spaced repetition software for learning languages or learning anything.
Oh, interesting. Okay, fantastic. I'll tell you what, let's just very quickly wrap up the sci-fi section, and then we can get Steve fully back into the conversation rather than just sort of throwing him a bone every few seconds. The only thing I've done really for Mantic sci-fi, because I have done a lot of sci-fi for another game system.
Join us on our other podcast about
another podcast.
Is I've printed off a couple of lovely Corvus Terrain Deadzone style buildings, and I've painted them up, so that's good. Very, very simple scheme, but look fine. Another 4 buildings to add to the massive pile, so that's good. And I finally found my Mantic trees that I didn't do because I only did a few to start with. So I'm going to, hopefully this week, I'm going to get a chance to spray them, paint them, get them on the table, because I think those Mantic sci-fi trees are absolutely fantastic, which you could also use for Kings of War, Steve. Super. So I think
so too.
Yeah. So I think, Mark, unless you've got anything to add for Deadzone and Firefight,
No, I'm really waiting to see what's going to be coming later this year for Deadzone. I'm hoping for another 2-player starter set. I think I mentioned that before. So, and I think that's where I'm going to pop in. Oh, and did anyone mention? I just came the new FAQ drop too. So you can go up on Mantic's website and download the new FAQ. So
The Deadzone one, right?
the Deadzone one, right? Yeah, it just dropped. So
Great point, Mark. Fantastic. Yep. Super. I must admit, I haven't got round to having a look, but I'd be interested to see what's there. But it's an absolutely fantastic game. And it was lovely to see friend of the pod, Peter, Pod All Star Peter. He posted a couple of photos on the MUP Facebook group of him teaching his son Deadzone today. And it just warms the heart, doesn't it? It's so fantastic. It really is.
Oh, wait, one last thing for the sci-fi stuff. There's a new podcast about Mantic sci-fi lore, right?
Great
What is
point,
it called?
Clem.
Mantic Lore Podcast, I think. I think that's what it was called. The Mantic Lore, like Manticore Podcast or something.
That's
like
it,
this.
Clem. You've got it. Yes, you've got it. Yes. I've started listening to it. Was very much enjoying it. Always great to see, new people doing stuff. And they're new to the game. So it is actually pretty similar to our Antares pod, Clem. It's like 2 new guys getting into this and learning it as they go, which is super cool.
No, I think it's really interesting. And again, I think we've done a MUP short about content creators. Some of them we forgot. Obviously, like there's so many, it's hard to list them all. And we're happy to see new ones join in. It's always good to see that. So go give them a listen. And they made me buy a lore book, like the Deadzone. What is it called?
They're doing a book club, right?
Right, they're doing book club. I haven't read the book yet, but I feel like it's 101 of book club. It's like commit to reading the book and then not read it and then still show up to discussion and try to argue and catch up and see who else hasn't read the book. Isn't
so
that
the
how it
book's
works?
called Angela's Ashes, and Angela was a great character, and something about Ireland.
I mean, it's for masochists who, missed the high school feeling of you haven't read the book, and then there's a test on it, and then you try to read the summary, like all this
Mrs.
stuff.
Bennett is the protagonist of this story. Yeah.
Anyway, no, go and give them a listen. It's a cool podcast. And with that, I think we're done with sci-fi, and we can wake Steve up and talk about our Kings of War. And maybe I can get...
Clem, I tell you what, while Steve's still not paying attention, I had a brilliant game of Beyond the Gates of Antares yesterday. Ask me as many questions as you like. I'm happy to. Honestly, I've got all night, guys. Sunday night. Fun. It was so fun, Clem. It was amazing.
I've seen some pictures. Did I understand that right, that you used the idea of using NPCs with one of the factions and they actually won the game?
Pretty much, yeah. So we were at a battlefield, which is in flux. There's different factions fighting over it, and it had been an old Gar fortress, and the Gar are sort of like they would have made a brilliant Doctor Who baddie, right? They're sort of weird little things in these giant metal suits. But the Gar had abandoned their fortress at some point, and the Concorde had moved in, and they created this forward base. But they'd all disappeared, Clem. All the Concorde, they'd all disappeared, leaving very, very valuable data there. And no one bothered to tell my Concorde that the Gar had come back to their fortress. So we didn't have any kind of heavy weapons or anything that could take the Gar out. So one side there was some Gar bombers, like the shooty Gar guys, inside their fortress firing out, and the other side of the board, every round we rolled a dice to see if the Gar assault squad were coming on. So round 3 they came on and just tore into my elite drop trooper guys, just wiped them all out. And so we, as the Concorde, we moved up onto the 3 objectives as quick as we possibly could, took very heavy casualties, but we were holding on to the points. My friend Caleb, playing the Algorin, came on exactly as Algorin would, with their heavy armor, just moving up, looking like badasses, shooting, from the hip. And it was just, it was perfect. But I managed to pin his mag cannon, so that wasn't firing, so that was really, really crucial. But at some point his leader just had one bodyguard left, everyone else was dead, and my leader was on the center point with a full squad of guys, but we had 4 pins on us. And I said to him, I actually think, although you've only got your leader and one guy, I think actually it's not a bad idea to charge my leader. And he looked at it and went, yeah, that would be the Algorand thing to do. Right, I'm charging. It wasn't like, yeah, that's a good idea because I've already got 4 pins on me. So I'm actually in, it looks like I'm in a strong position, but it's a house of cards. So his leader charged in, wiped out my guys and took the point. The bodyguard died, but the Algorand leader was just there going, Argh! So he's now a named character. He got shot down next round brutally by another squad of C3 just shot into him. But yeah, he's now a named character in the, they never found his body, Clem,
Yeah, of course. I mean, like all of my leaders who were in a similar situation, when they reach heroic status, they never die. So yeah. That's how it goes.
So we were planning on playing 6 rounds. We managed 5 rounds, but then he got a couple of messages from family saying, "Oh, you were coming back soon." So we cut it a little bit short. But it was my house of cards was right about to topple. But to be fair, he didn't have that much left at Caleb. He'd taken we both taken a lot of casualties. The guard, totally fine. No pins, nothing, just absolutely brutal. So, so the NPCs won, Clem, in conclusion.
NPC winning the game sounds like it's a good thing. But I think it's a cool mechanic to add like some flavor and like make a bit wonky scenarios, like crazy stuff happen with some NPCs. It's also a good excuse to, create some narrative tension in a game. So that's definitely something we need to try out next time.
Oh, it was fantastic, and of course, there's no reason we can't do it with Firefight or Deadzone even, right? And it's like when my elite troopers got completely wiped out by the guard, I was just laughing my head off. It was just so funny, and it felt extremely thematic. It just felt absolutely right. So it's a very good game. Very, very good game. A lot of fun. And I spent an awful lot of time making the table look exactly as I wanted it to and 3D printing bits and pieces. So, yeah, really good game. So
cool.
On that note, let's move on to our Pannithor, Kings of War. Let's keep Steve's morale up by going to Steve first. Mark's walked off. That's fine.
Hi, this is Alessio Cavatore, and you're listening to the Mantic Universe podcast.
This is Andy from Mantic Games, and you're listening to the Mantic Universe podcast. So much universe, so little time.
Steve, Kings of War.
I heard of that game.
How are your
kingdoms? It's actually made by Mantic Games as opposed to the Gates of Antares, which is made by somebody else completely.
Skytrex, get over to their website, dear listeners.
No one anymore.
Skytrex, it used to be Warlord, wasn't successful enough, so it's now Skytrex, who were owned by Warlord.
Cool. I was joking. But hi, how you doing? What are we talking about?
Kings of War, Steve.
Kings of War, I've heard of that.
So building terrain for Clash of Kings, because I was shut down when I asked you a question about half an hour ago.
He's ruthless.
What have I become? Honestly, guys, what have I become? Honestly.
When has he ever cared about what section we're in before?
You stare into the void long enough and the void stares back at you, doesn't it? Look at me go.
Oh, so I've not
playing Twilight King does to you, right?
That's it.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Clem.
He's evil now. I haven't been making any terrain, but John Fawkes has, who's on the Clash of King committee. He's making some terrain, which is nice. I do need to make 5 tables of terrain, but I have plenty of time and an enormous amount of polystyrene. So that I'm not worried about that. I did fix my 3D printer, my PLA printer, which is very exciting for me because it's been broken for ages. And then I immediately broke it. I was printing off some terrain and various bits of it. It's obviously of an age.
And then the belt broke and you extruded
it. We've had exactly the same conversation. So my 3D printer was dead. The dear listeners heard this all before, about an hour ago.
Yeah.
Replaced it at great expense, and then the belt snapped on the new one, and it destroyed itself. And so I was back to having a broken 3D printer 24 hours later.
Well, in fact, your 3D printing it's a hobby in and of itself, isn't it? And actually maintaining the bloody things is more. It is part of the fun, really.
I would rather than saying it's a hobby, to me personally and my personality, it's more like being a contestant in a Saw film. Do you know what I mean? It's that, there's a glass of acid and there's a key in the glass of acid and I've got to put my hand in the acid. If I was in a Saw film, I would just sit quietly and wait to just be murdered. I wouldn't even half-heartedly start crawling through the broken glass or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm all right. I've had a lovely old life. I'm not going out like this. I'm not interested. It's very boring. This Jigsaw bloke, he's not as interesting as he thinks he is. This is not profound. I'm just going to get murdered. The police aren't competent. We all know that. But in the Saw universe, dear listener, I have absolutely nothing against the police in the real world.
Are you okay, buddy?
Your printer.
We need to like an intervention. We're going to have worried listeners writing in going, "Is Chris all right?" And I'm like, probably not. But anyway, sorry to be repetitive, but anyway. So each bit of it broke in succession, and I replaced each bit of it, and then another bit broke, and I haven't been bothered to replace that bit. So I did print off most of a bit of building, and then I gave up. What have I been doing? I've been doing an army because I needed to do an army for a tour of tournaments coming up, and then I kind of spent ages and ages making bases. And then realised that there was 4 weeks until the tournament. So I went, oh, whoops. And then in my weird obsessive way, sat every evening for 20 days and painted a whole army. So I painted a whole army to 1995 points. And I've only got one unit left to make it 2300. So that's done.
And sorry, Steve, to interrupt. That's your stunning kingdoms of men, I suppose.
Kingdoms of meh, as I'm calling them. Because that's how I play them. Kingdoms of meh. It is them, and they're mostly Basilean infantry and some Northern Alliance infantry, and it's been a real interesting experience painting. So I've painted a bunch of Sisterhood infantry, which are very old miniatures, which people generally say mean things about. A hideous amount of Basilean swordsmen / spearmen, which are more modern ones, and then Northern Alliance infantry, which are the newest ones. That's kind of and there are also some Arbalests and stuff, but they're not as important. And it's really interesting because of the three of them, the Sisterhood I way enjoyed painting more than the others. Like, it's just colossally more than the others. So it turns out Sisterhood, they're just very poorly made. The miniatures themselves are lovely. But actually, if you take them as they come and try and stick them together, they look extremely bizarre. You have to slice and dice those. You have to cut bits of their heads off to make them fit into the bodies, and you have to slice bits of the body so the heads fit in, and then you have to cut the arms a bit shorter, right? Which is a fact. But once you do that, they're fan. And also, I stuck all the flail. They all come with a flail. They've got flails, right? And all their flails are flinging up in the air in a kind of a U, which is weird. So I put them all in hot water, and I reshaped all the flails to be like dragging on the floor or kind of coiling a bit. And they're fantastic minis. Just lovely, really, really nice.
Are they the ones from Vanguard, or are those
no.
older?
Yeah, the original old rubbish PVC ones. They're not PVC. What's it called, Mark? It's called
Red Stick, yes.
Red Stick, Mark's least favourite material. They were horrible to have to stick together, I would say. Yes. That was the worst bit. Sticking them together was a nightmare. But I just really fell in love with the miniatures once I had them together. And plus, they're a lovely, simple miniature. There's no faff on them. There's no straps. There's no bits of pouch and a stupid, one of them's holding a cigar for no reason. All that nonsense. None of that. It's just everyone's got the same uniform. They've got some variations. They were lovely to paint. Right. So that's those ones. The Basilean swordsman / spearman, I came to love. Yes, Christopher, you have your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, Steve. Just to back you up there, our friend Manuel had I think he sold it now, but he had an army which was mostly Sisterhood, and just to reiterate what you're saying, it looked great, fantastic, looked really, really nice with the old Mantic models.
Yeah, once you've cut the heads to fit, because the problem is a lot of them they come with a collar attached to the head, but the collar is also on the body, so you need to cut the collar off the head. So the head sits in the body, and then it doesn't look weird anymore. It just looks fine. Anyway, and I painted 60 Basilean swordsmen, which I came to love over time because none of them have got faces. They're just all helmets, which is very easy. It's lovely to just paint a bunch of helmets.
Non-metallic metals.
Yeah, all in there. And it was the worst thing is because the way I do non-metallic metal, gold takes a lot longer than silver, and I put a lot of gold on them. I really regretted that. By the time I got to the last regiment, I'm like, I want to die. Oh God, no, again. And then I did a logo, like an emblem on all their shields, and I realised that painting the same emblem, like on 60 shields is very hard. It's very hard to get it looking the same on all of them. So there's quite a few at the back of the regiments where they're not quite as good. And they're just selected the best ones to sit at the front.
They all worship a dragon, is that correct?
Yeah, they all worship a dragon.
Maybe some of the later ones they could worship a stick.
It looks like Christine, my wife said, "Oh, I thought it was a dog." I'm like, "You can go."
I love the idea of people worshipping a dog.
A dog.
I'm all in. I would be leaving the Northern Alliance to go and join them. Oh, this dog is really good dog.
Sounds a lot more reasonable. Like, you can see the dog, right? I mean, it changes every 15 years or so because, that's a dog. But then you can see the dog and pet the dog and enjoy the dog. Like, it's a nice dog versus a dragon.
You can see the dragon too. It's right.
Right. Would you go and pet him though?
Depends how brave you are, buddy. You can certainly do it once. Do anything once. You can eat anything once. You
can reach it.
Yeah. Anyway, and then I painted a bunch of the Northern Alliance clansmen, right? And I had the two-handed weapon upgrades on them, and which I printed a bunch of those. And boy, people make jokes about how much Mantic loves straps. Modern Mantic. I don't know who's the guy that sculpts them. Italian guy, wasn't he? Luigi.
Luigi. We always call him Luigi, so let's hope that's right.
He does love a strap. I think he's got a fetish. I swear to God, these Northern Alliance miniatures, some of them, the entire front of their miniature, and I'm not even kidding, the whole front from their shoulders down to their knees is straps. Like, they have ornamental straps dangling from the skirt of their little thing for no reason. Why? Why am I painting so many straps? Anyway.
Well, Steve, we don't know what's in his contract. Like, sometimes you think GW, sculptors, they're paid, how many skulls they put into something.
They're paid by the skull. Maybe he lost a bet or won a bet with a sculptor friends. Like, I bet you can put 50 straps on a spruce. Like, no way, man. No way.
Most of my designs just have the one cod piece, but this one I really pushed the boat out on.
5 cod pieces. It's covered in belts. But he's made his costume out of belts. Hey guys, you like my belt-themed costume? What's wrong with you, Clive? Anyway, so I did a lot of those guys, but they're fine. So it's all done now.
Still, at least it's not a bust, though, Steve, right?
No, wow.
So we can comfort ourselves with the knowledge it's not a bust. It's not been made into a bust.
Well, the standard bearer that I've got has got a bust. I tell you what, it's a standard bearer. I just searched for free standard bearer models, and I found one that was kind of looked vaguely knight-like and human-like. And whoever sculpted it it's in full armor apart from the torso, where it has like just a cloth armor and a cleave, like a massive cleavage for no reason. I'm like, your armor needs firing, whoever they are. I mean, I can get the inspiring part of that, maybe, but gosh. Anyway,
maybe the lady soldiers were overheating. Maybe
I think that's what it is. They were just very warm carrying the big standard around, and that's why. But I think that one was sculpted by a man anyway, so that's my standard bearer. But that's the only.
I think we're safe to assume that. To be fair. Yeah.
But what else did I got?
Men, sadly.
Yeah. Hey, I downloaded it, so I'm to blame. And then so I've got a couple of 3D prints for like a winged general and like a hero on Pegasus and all that kind of stuff. But it's all done now, so that's quite fun. And I ran it out today. A friend of mine came round to play. Gilvanus, shout out to Gilva, doesn't listen to podcasts. He's a cool guy, exceptionally good player. I think he's the UK's top War Machine player currently. And Kings of War is his casual game. So I never won against him, but I beat him today because he rolled lots of double ones, which was good fun.
Is he a relatively new player, Steve?
Yeah, brand new. He's played one tournament, but he's not new to War Machine. He's been playing War Machine for years, and he played Warhammer 8. But
did you know him prior to him taking up Kings of War?
No. He reached out to a local player, and I think I played him 3 or 4 times. He always tables me, but I beat him today, so it's quite exciting because he rolled 2 double ones at critical points, which is always fun, isn't it?
Oh, what was he thinking, rolling double ones? If he's such a clever player, you think he'd be avoiding that kind of thing.
He's rolling better. I realised this is something we could talk about. I don't know. Because I was playing another friend recently, and at one point...
Oh, Steve, if this is a long conversation, so because our guest, was sadly unable to attend today, maybe if this is going to be a long conversation, maybe we can move it to topic of the month, because that's now wide open.
I think we
That's
should
right.
keep topic of the month as it comes, right? Let's do it right now. It's right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
No topic of the
Go-
month.
go
Topic
for
of the
it,
month
Steve,
is.
go for
I don't know if it's
I'm
topic
on,
or
I'm
not.
on.
It was just a thought. Maybe it's not topic, but I was playing with my friend, and he went, and I was going badly for me, and he went, "Oh, you've gone all sulky." And what I was actually doing, and it made me laugh, because what I was actually doing was thinking, and I don't think very much. And obviously, when I think, I go all quiet, because as you can tell, I have the brain of like a demented rabbit. And so when I think, it takes over 90% of my processing power. So I kind of power down like a droid that's gone into charge mode, like, and I kind of stare at the board, because what I'm doing is actually thinking for the first time. He said he was joking, and that I don't sulk. Maybe I do. But I wonder if there are things you do when you're playing that make it not fun for the other person, and you don't know you're doing them. So, if I'm like, because I'm quite obviously a ludicrously loud and enthusiastic person, if I'm like that, and then all of a sudden I'm like, ooh, and I literally power down and stare at the board for 10 minutes because I'm trying to think about trying to do maths in my head, or I'm not good at. That's not maybe not fun for the other person. It seems like, oh, why is he sulking just because he's losing? And I wondered if there's other things we do that might not be.
Great question, Steve. I've got a funny feeling I'm kind of similar, actually. I think if it's a really, really close, exciting game of Kings of War, it's almost too much for my brain. And I think you're right. I go from being really friendly and chatty to a bit more. I don't know. Yeah, I think exactly as you've described, actually.
I mean,
Yeah, quite
especially
possibly.
if it's game 3 of a tournament, right?
Exactly.
Like at the end of the day, and just
exactly.
about crashing.
Yeah.
And it's an actually challenging game because you potentially match with a player about your level, or potentially better than you if you were lucky in the previous games. So that can definitely happen, I think. Yeah, I think it's easier to see what annoys us in others when we play with them than necessarily, come forward with things we don't even realize that we're annoying the person we're playing with. I think we've been chatting like off the pod. I think people who complain about dice too much is kind of an annoying thing. In my opinion, the only time that it's okay to complain about dice is when your dice is too good, maybe a little bit, because I personally find it a bit embarrassing. Otherwise, I mean, sure, it's your third double one, kind of sucks, but I mean, I don't know. Unless you're playing for the top table or something like that, I see it as a funny coincidence, or like I even now try to not taunt the double one gods. When there's a critical fight and say only a double one can save you now, and then you roll the dice, and that's what
you
happens.
always do at that point. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, so that's when you keep your mouth shut. But also, if you do roll double one, I would start laughing, rather than be like, "Arr."
I think that was one of the few times in my life I've really felt like I needed to apologise to my opponent. So when it was Clash of Kings in Cardiff, and I was playing against one of the Moonrakers, and it was, if you guys remember, the air conditioning was broken. And you think, oh, it's Cardiff, that's no issue. It seriously was an issue. And it was the last game of the day. And I'm fairly certain I played Trident Realm. I played the best I've ever played that game. It was against a really scary Night Stalkers list, and I honestly played really, really well. And we both agreed, as long as I don't double one twice in the last round, I've won and we'll stop playing. So I doubled one twice. And then still I had my Worm Riders to charge. I could still kill that unit and pick up the token. It was like a regiment of infantry. It was already damaged. And I think I needed to roll a 4. It was a few years ago now, but it was something like I need to roll a 4 on the wave test once. And I rolled a 3. And at that point, it was like, no, this is just too much. That really broke me. That really did.
Which Moonraker was it, out of interest?
Leo.
Oh, he's lovely.
He's lovely.
Man,
and it was made all the worse because he said something like, I've lost my first 2 games and I only feel like I've completely cheated you out of this one, and I've won it, but it feels so unsatisfying. Aww. And that doubled the pain. It was like, oh Leo, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ruin your time, but it was way too hot. It was, and I think we got in at something ridiculous, like 2:30 we got to our hotel in the morning.
Yeah,
and
the
then,
night before we were at
because we flew into
early morning.
London and then rented a car and drove to Cardiff at
was a mess.
midnight or something. So it'd been this huge thing to get there, and anyway.
What's your
Great
biggest pet
question,
peeve
Steve.
when you play with someone, Mark? That they bring more than 500 points on the table?
Hey, I love 500-point games. So
What's your pet peeve, Mark? What's your biggest peeve? What's your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve?
When someone plays against you.
I don't know. I haven't really run into anybody who's really been nasty or that's really bothered me before, to be honest with you. So
Except Colin, of course.
Yeah, he's fine too. But no, I mean, I guess I don't have one off the top of my head. I'm just, fairly easygoing, and I mean, I haven't really run into anybody that's really caused me anything that I'd get angry about. So honestly,
that's a challenge now. And
who's gonna piss off Mark first?
Yeah. I'm gonna smash it. Well, me and Mark can play. We'll be meeting again soon. Maybe I can.
There you go. Go.
As I drop down to the lower tables and Mark zooms past me in his usual, boot crushing victory.
Yeah, right. Well, maybe we'll meet on the lower table, and then you can crush me, Steve. That would be. And then we catapult you back up. So.
Have you actually got an army to play at this tournament yet?
I was just talking about that. I forget where I think I typed that in the show notes. Yes, as of right now, I'm planning on bringing my first edition Orc army to Vanguard.
Let's go.
Yes, all individually based on nice steel trays and everything else. So, but going old school. That's my travel army. So that's what I'm planning on bringing. I am sitting here working a little bit on some Riftforged Orcs, but nice. I don't think that they're going to be done in time. So it's my busiest season, and but I like my Orc army. It's it's fairly well painted, and I've got one I could probably rebase. And, I've got Abyssal Dwarfs and Ogres and stuff like that. I've got a Green Lady army over there, too. So
you could borrow Colin's Undead.
I could do that. So absolutely. But no, I think the Orcs are coming. Maybe something I could do is, do some Hellstrikers or something and work it out to be a Riftforged army. But, I've got Chariots in there and they suck. And, so it should be fun.
You use the formation. It's got a formation that makes them really good.
Yeah. All right. Well, see, there you go. I'll have to do some list planning with you, Steve. So we'll have to go through my box of units. So, but I do have a big flying Gribbly and all sorts of stuff that I don't get to use too often. So that'll be fun. But, so it's got a horde in it, and it's got some hordes of trolls and stuff like that. So, it's good. So actually, it's the army. Let's see, I brought it down when we played doubles in Dallas at Legends. So that was fun. Colin brought the Undead. I brought the Orcs down, and it's my travel army. So that is what's coming as of right now, unless that changes. But it's not going to change, so that's what I'm bringing. So hopefully I can plan a little bit with you, and we can see what kind of list we can create.
This is Fred reminding you to visit the Kings of War forum. KOWforum.com. No ads, no commercials. That's KOWforum.com.
This is Ronnie Renton, and you are listening to the Mantic Universe podcast.
Did you guys already talk about Warsaw?
Well, I registered for it. I haven't bought tickets yet, and I plan on going. But Chris, did you plan to go also late May or not yet?
I've got to be honest, I haven't really thought about it. It's going to be a flight and all the rest of it. So it's
which airport are you flying?
Going to Clash of Kings. I'm going to Steve's tournament. I'll have to have a think about it, Clem. It's all,
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a bit closer. I'm also interested in going because I think I will get a beating because they have a pretty good local group, and I think they do one tournament per month or something. So I expect to, learn a lesson or two playing the game. So
I'd love to go. I mean, I think, I played against a Polish guy at Clash of Kings UK, and I very much got a beating. I I'd very much like to go, but yeah, just life and such.
Of course.
If I can make it work, I will.
The other argument for me is accommodation is relatively cheap. So compared to going to anywhere in Germany and take a 2-day, like 2 nights hotel stay, it's like half the price or something, or if not less, depending on what arrangements you make. Same for food and so on. It's slightly cheaper, so it also works. It should work okay. After my epic Warpath splurges, getting a bit of a weekend away. Probably gonna go there with my wife as well, because she said she wanted to, come have a look at the event and maybe go visit the city a little bit. Obviously, we're much closer. So, like for us, it's a 4 or 5 hour train ride, so it probably makes it easier.
Yeah, for me, it's a flight. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, actually, funnily enough, as much as I'd love to see Sarah, now you've mentioned you might go there with Sarah and make a weekend of it. Maybe I mean, it's one of those things that it's kind of, well, maybe I back Epic Warpath, or maybe I do that sort of thing rather than doing both, But anyway, interesting. But I would like to go. I've never been to Poland. Sorry, Mark.
Oh, I was going to say I've never been either. I'd love to go. So, but one of the other things you're talking about, traveling with your wife to a possible tournament stuff. Are there any plans for, or has the Irish tournament moved forward at all, or?
No. So we think it's going to happen, but we're not. We don't have any. Unfortunately, I don't have any more information for the dear listener or for you guys. I think it's going to happen, but we'll have to watch this space for now. But anyway,
I'll have to get a heads up. On that for flights and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think time's ticking. It might be. I mean, Tom, friend of the pod, Tom and Kevin are arranging it. I mean, it might be they just want to do the first one as kind of as a proof of concept without so much pressure, and then maybe next year they sort of, when they've got a handle on what they're doing, because I don't think they've done something like this before. So, and
I mean, it's a lot to organize. I mean, we forget. It's easy to forget when we have Rockstar Steve with us, who organize hundreds of participants tournaments just like that. Lost a bet in a pub with Ronnie or something. I ran a tiny tournament last weekend. There were 12 seats. And 9 people showed up, and already this kind of kept me busy for a while, and always kind of stress out about, okay, I need to make this work. I'm taking time off people's agenda. They've put this day in the calendar. They're traveling. Some of them are traveling, so you definitely want to make it right. And obviously we've done tons of gaming days, right? So you could think, oh, it's the same thing, and it's pretty close, but not quite.
Clem, did you, sorry for this weekend, we're talking about it now, did you actually, make a note of who won what and give tournament points and all that? Or just
absolutely.
You did?
We kept Northern King scoring. I decided on the scenarios. There were clocks, although the clock was optional, because I think a third of the participants were brand new Kings of War players. Maybe played 1 or 2 games before, not brand new to tabletop gaming and not brand new to going to events. So at least they had some experience with that. But still, even if you know how to play the game a little bit, the first time you play on the clock, it's quite stressful, So anyway, the clock was optional. But yeah, otherwise we did keep the scores and adjusted tables and so on. Absolutely.
Fantastic, Clem. And was there anyone of note who attended, would you say?
What do you mean? Of course, all of them were not.
Everybody attended.
Come on, out with it, Chris. Out with it.
So there's a very, very nice Australian chap called Andrew who lives local to me, and he's maybe 20 minutes away, something like this, and he's very new to tabletop gaming. So Andrew, I hope I'm getting this right, so apologies if not. I think he's the kind of guy who played Hero Quest as a kid. That's his kind of level of experience with tabletop gaming. And then he was looking, he's had kids, got married, had kids, etc. And he was looking for a hobby. and came across Kings of War, really interested, did a Night Stalker's army. So he's someone who's, with very, very little hobby experience, has played a couple of games of Kings of War. He's now finished 1,000 points of Night Stalkers, which is incredible. He's done very full units. I think pretty much full model count, if I'm off the top of my head, and it's just absolutely amazing that he's put all this love into this. He's never really painted models before or anything like that, and he got on the train. Unfortunately I couldn't make it, but he got on the train and got to Frankfurt to Berlin. It's a fair old way, right, Clem?
Yeah, and, it's quite a trip. And
to attend your event, Clem. It's really cool.
Yeah, he played my tiny undeads, and he did pretty well at the tournament. Like he didn't get the wooden spoon, but I think it's really, for me, it's a badge of honor to have complete beginners still attend the tournament, and I think for Kings of War in general, that's really, it says something about the game and about the community that even Clash of Kings, like the biggest tournament of the year, if you're a complete beginner, you will still have a great time. And that is very dear to my heart,
Actually, want to comment on that, but I'll just briefly finish talking about Andrew. So in one of our practice games, he had I don't know whether it was a horde of bloodworms or a legion of bloodworms, but anyway, he had a lot of bloodworms. And the mistake he made was getting flank charged by some mutants that are just casually they did 40, so they had 40 attacks because it was in the flank. I think they did 37 wounds. So it was sort of, oh wait, hang on, he's brand new. And so the mistake he made there, buddy, was just letting them get flank charged by my scariest unit. But he's a super, super nice guy, and it's super cool he made it. And speaking of new players going to Clash of Kings this year, so my very, very good friend Chris, we've been friends since we were 8. I got him a ticket when the tickets were all selling out, because I was like, come on. Invited him along only after I'd already got him a ticket, and he has played a couple of games of Ambush with us, I think, Clem. But he's never really played Kings. Yeah. Oh yeah, right. We played the massive. He joined us for our massive, awesome battle, right, for my birthday, and so he's down to borrow an army, Northern Alliance. He's picked Northern Alliance. He likes the look of that. So he was either going to go Northern Alliance or Twilight Kin. His wife was encouraging him to go Twilight Kin, but he picked Northern Alliance. Says something about his character, and so he's down to borrow an army, but he has bought an army and he started doing it, and
wow.
He's
That's
done.
Nice.
So he found an online tutorial, YouTube tutorial, to make icy snowy bases, and he's done an amazing job of following this tutorial. So it's still early days, there's a long way to go for a 2,300 points army. He's doing a very elite army, which makes a lot of sense, less stuff to paint. So he's thought about what's likely, what's possible. So it may well be that's the end of it, and he doesn't paint a single model further. But I think he's got time. There's a fair chance he's going to be coming with his own army, which would be amazing, right? So, but
I think
he's going to have a great
special
time.
feeling as well, right? Like when you kind of spend some time building an army and then you actually bring it someplace and actually play games with it. It creates a different relationship to it. Like it's interesting.
I've said that to him, yeah, because he's obviously, the first thing we did was kind of okay, let's get an army. So he's got an army to play, and then on his own, he was just having a little look at things of, well, actually, I would like to do my own army. So it's really exciting, really, really exciting.
Yeah,
Super.
maybe he just paints like some units or some of it. To have some of his own on the table and borrows the rest of it. That could also work, just to make sure that he can make it to the event with a complete army, but still have some stuff that he made himself. There's always tons of options, I think, for this.
Yeah, I don't want to put pressure on him. I think he's gonna, I think he's gonna do it, but we'll see how it goes. But really, really cool, really, really exciting, super. Oh, and very funny. So fighting against Andrew. Who won a game, Clem, at the tournament, right? He did win 1 out of 3.
I think so, yes.
So we were playing 1,000 points in Quest Hub in Frankfurt, and it was about turn 3 or 4, and I was in a very good situation, I'll be honest. My Twilight Kin, we were fighting stuff. We'd done a great job of nullifying some stuff. And but the one thing he had left was some doppelgangers, a regiment of doppelgangers. And a chap came over and expressed interest. Oh, what are you guys playing? So, we're playing Kings of War. So I went into my sort of sales pitch, come and play with us. And so, what's your name? Oh, my name is, I'm also called Chris. And he was Christopher with CH, which is very unusual in Germany. So, he was a doppelganger. And then I sort of looked back at the board, and the doppelgangers had killed my terror. They'd killed my horde of impaler guys. And what's happening here? It was a very comic moment involving lots of doppelgangers coming at me from all angles.
That's quite funny.
So there we go. But not to. And just very quickly, so I've had a few different, running demos or just getting the new guys in. I very cheekily showed a couple of like little painting tricks and things to one of the new players who has a Northern Alliance army, just to show him how to do a couple of simple little things. So the owner had his own personal models sort of set up with his paints and everything in the corner, and I was like, can I quickly just show this guy something? And he was like, yeah, that's all right, no worries. So now
you go
play
to the store quite often. Do you have a set time, like a set day in the week or something where you go there? Or
yeah, so I need to change it a little bit, because I need to finesse the formula, Clem, because we tend to get there for Thursday, which is a day that works really well, but actually it's probably not the smartest day to go, because that's kind of card game night. And bless JD, he always finds a table for me, but it's probably better to go when people are playing models, like a miniatures game rather than card games, because it's just a slightly different thing. I'm sure there is a lot of overlap, but I'd rather.
But still, it's probably better, make it easier for everyone. Yeah, but I mean, it's hard to have a set time in the week. I've been trying to do that locally as well. So far, I've managed every other week to get one evening where we play Kings of War.
But that's good though, Clem.
It's already a lot. Yeah, it's a lot to make it happen, But, yeah.
Quite right, buddy. Absolutely. So yeah,
I think there's a lot of new players coming in at the moment. It seems to be an influx, which is really good. So I think if any new players come across the podcast and they've lasted this long, then A, well done. But B, coming to a tournament is not as scary as you think it is, certainly for Kings of War. And there's a lot. I see, Clash of Kings is a great example. We're up to 200 players for this year now, and a lot of first-time players are coming. A handful of first-time players coming. And everyone has a good time. People came to our last tournament. There's a guy who came from Australia who's been on this podcast quite a lot. His first ever games of Kings of War were at the tournament, which is ridiculous. He's coming back next year. So there's a lot of people just like that. So it's for everyone, Kings of War. I think you can be the most hardcore, vicious, psychopathic power gamer, and we have them. And you can be a super casual, friendly narrative gamer. We have those too. It just seems to work really nicely.
Let's put you on the spot then. Who is the most psychopathic power gamer?
Mark Zelinsky.
Oh yeah, right. I'm that puddle jumping, what do you call it, narrative player surfing in the bottom of the pool. So, but Steve's right. Kings of War tournaments are nothing to be afraid of. They're lots of fun, and just there's so many nice people, and as I mentioned earlier about my pet peeves, I never have run into. I've never had a bad game at a tournament. I guess I'm blessed, and I don't go to a ton of them, but the ones I go to are fantastic. And I've
of the 3 tournaments you've played in the last 10 years.
I've flown down and I played at Lone Wolf a number of times, Living Legends, team tournaments, Ocon. I've had, flown to Clash of Kings for last year. So, I've just never had a bad game, always have a great time. And, part of the fun is even not being at the tournament. I mean, there's fellowship after that. I've played D&D, board games, gone out drinking, dinners, the whole banana. It's just a good time. and you just have fun meeting people, and it's an overall experience just to, just get out of the house, so to speak, and hey, bring your significant other with you too. They have a good time too. That's one of the things, like Lone Wolf. I always tried to get Debbie to go Lone Wolf. So, but they go out, and the spouses that are, significant others that aren't playing in a tournament, they're out running around shopping and, having a grand old time, and then meet up with us at night. So always fun.
Yeah, it's for example, when Clem and I started playing, the primary thing when we started was the game, right? We both had, that was our common interest. That was the thing that brought us together. And it's as time goes on, it was the same with Trent, etc. as well, right? Friends of ours. As time goes on, the game is, we still have a great time with it, but it's less important because the people go from being your gaming buddies to genuine friends, that transcends gaming. So it's still great to play games, and obviously we have a brilliant time. But the relationships deepen beyond that, don't they? So yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, that actually makes a difference. And I think even if you go to an event and nobody, other people who go to the tournament, most of them, they like the same thing as you do, and so you already have something in common with them, right? Like from the get-go. So even if no one, you will sort of easily find some people to have a good time with. So that's really not an issue.
Totally, one thing, Clem, I do think, sorry, buddy, just to interrupt you there for a second, and I really think the onus should not be on the new player, but on the community to welcome that person in and make sure they're not left out. And because the worst thing if you're the new player is if you're left sitting in the corner by yourself and no one comes over to talk to you and that kind of thing. So I think it really is on the community to make sure new people are involved and, hey, do you want to come and join us for lunch or whatever? Do you know what I mean? And just
I agree. Sure. No, I think that's important. I would say it's kind of good behavior in general, but it's also true in particular for these type of events. What I wanted to say also is I've seen, like in my tiny tournament last weekend, the other interesting thing is when you have people coming from outside of your gaming group, there are maybe different ways of playing the game. So there were like a few situations where the rules work slightly differently. Like, let's have a look at the book again quickly. And it's like, oh, I didn't realize that. Like, we've always been playing the game
slightly wrong. Yeah.
Slightly wrong with the 3 people locally, like in our small group. And that's new and that's interesting. So that part, I think, it can be an interesting thing to see at tournaments. But also, you see different armies, different play styles. So that part is also, I think, a good plus of going to an event. And also, the initial reason why I even organized a tournament is because one of the local players said, you know what, I'm very busy with work. I have 2 kids, young age. I don't get to play that often. And so whenever I manage to negotiate, like fit one day in my calendar to actually play games, I'd like it to be like a full day where people show up at 9:30.
Make the most of it.
And play
Clem, this is a conversation we've had, particularly about your Berlin group previously, right? It's like, they're sort of a little bit like cats, right? Some people are like, yeah, I don't want to get out, it's my day off. I don't want to get out of bed early. I want to sleep in. Turn up at 11 o'clock or 12, play a game, sit around, hang out, chat, and then go home again. They don't necessarily want to have that kind of structured day, right? So it's interesting you've actually...
It's also completely valid to do this, right? Like, and some people didn't come necessarily to the tournament, but no, I think it's just slightly organizing differently, and then going into it with maybe a different mindset of, okay, I know I'm going to play 3 games today. I'm going to try something slightly different maybe. And I think also, again, just based on this one tiny experience, I think some of the reluctance to actually organize it as tournaments is tournaments kind of have a bad name. I think and if you ask me, like before I got into Kings of War, hey, do you want to go into a tournament? I would say, fuck no. Like, why would I do this to myself? I am here to have a good time and enjoy the game. Why would I go to a competitive, with a bad meaning attached to it event? That to me doesn't compute, right? And so I think maybe it's just about reclaiming what we actually do when we do tournaments, that we keep it still a nice event to go to, even if you're not there to necessarily fight for the top table or something like this.
Funny enough, Clem, one of the new local guys has said, who's painting up his army as we go, he said, "Oh no, I'd never go to a tournament. That's just, I would not have a good time at that." And we got, and I was saying, well, actually, for Kings of War, it's just not what you think it is. It's not like that. And so we got to the point where he sort of said, well, maybe I'll try once, which is totally fair enough, right? Maybe just give it a go.
Yeah,
just try it once. Might like it. Maybe he doesn't like it, but maybe, I very much suspect he will.
I mean, I think if the community of players is, nice and welcoming and so on, the advantage of a tournament is, again, you do get to play a bunch of games, and over one or two games, you get matched with players of a similar level. And I remember I was kind of surprised by it that the first time I went to a 2-day tournament was the German GT with you in Cologne. After game 3, game 4, you're really playing a very, very interesting game because you really are matched with someone you potentially have never met, so bringing something new to the table and so on, but who is still pretty well matched to your own level or way of playing, and it makes for very interesting games, even if you get your ass kicked like I did in these games, but
Yeah, the funnest way to go into a tournament is, seriously, don't expect to win. You're there to have fun. Just go in with a little narrative. And if you heard Walt talk, he went to Clash of Kings Australia. I mean, he did a narrative event for himself to keep it exciting, through the entire tournament. So, and that's another thing you can do, I mean, you can mark down a little thing for your own thing, with the Scar Orcs and everything else, and you can have fun with it. I mean, I'm jumping in the car and I'm going to be driving 6.5 hours to get my butt kicked all weekend. The best parts, I'm going to see Steve, and I'm going to see Jake Cherapika and all these people that, I'm excited to go hang out with and break bread and have a good time playing the game. So, I don't care if I win or lose, and maybe I'm unique in that, but I really don't.
No, not at all, Mark. No, not at all. I just think people that think like that tend to be quite quiet, and so I mean, my Twilight Kin I'm taking to Steve's tournament, Clash of Kings, sold out, dear listener, but get on the wait list to see if you can get yourself a ticket. It's my Twilight Kin. I've got quite a lot of mutants and gribbly monsters, so what I'm thinking is that over time they've got horribly corrupted by the void, and this is almost like the last stage of their, maybe they get wiped out, it's toward the end of their story at Clash of Kings. And what I think I'll do after that is then kind of go back in time with the same army of, like, this was when they were, pretty sprightly young. Oh, I'm a pretty optimistic sad elf before I became a tentacle monster, so that's kind of, so I'm already thinking, and of course, talking to Walt as often as I do, it's really infectious, right? This idea of, well, Danny named my ship the Daughter of Blackness, so yeah, it's the crew of the Daughter of Blackness, and it's just, this is really cool. This is really, really fun. It doesn't matter. Of course, I like always, if it's a 6-game event or a 5-game event, I like to win 2 games. That's where I set my bar, which is pretty low. But
hey, Chris, you should.
It's nice to win a couple of games.
You should. When you fixed your 3D printer, you could scale up one of the Twilight Kin boats and make the display board a full-sized Twilight Kin boat and bring it with you, and that's the Daughter of Blackness. There you go.
I would be delighted to. Getting on the aeroplane will be a challenge though, as is. But
just pack it in your
bubble wrap and put in the cargo.
Yeah.
Or ask Steve to print it for you locally.
Yeah, well.
Steve's a much better painter than I am as well. So thanks for doing that, Steve. Thanks.
No, I'll do it for the
cheap
price of lots of money.
Steve, you're also judging best painted. Can I win that? I'd like that. I mean,
I'm glad you've asked
these questions.
Let me draw us relentlessly back on topic, but not back on topic really. But so best painted Clash of Kings is actually kind of a cool thing because there's 200 people there, right? So you might think, well, there's no way I'm going to win any best painted, right? So what we did last year is we had our 3 kind of best painted type awards, which were, one for best army, one for best unit, one for best miniature, and they get kind of a bottle of whatever from Ronnie and a trophy. But we also gave out a judges award. So each judge gave out an award to an army they loved. So there's 5 of those, and we're going to try and get some kind of Adepticon style medallion for that, so people get that kind of as a badge of honor. And then on top of that as well, each judge is going to get a kind of a bunch of like limited edition like enamel badge or like a badge that's with the Clash of Kings logo. And as we go around, if we see an army that we just like, that we think is cool, or they've done something, or they've clearly put effort that we think is, it's a Mantic army, it's a new Mantic army, they put a lot of effort in, and we think that's cool, they get a badge, they get a kind of a Clash of Kings badge, and so there'll be more of those. So there's more to win than just the painting
That's
award.
really cool, because there's I've absolutely zero chance of winning the overall, because the standard is unbelievable. But I'm about 5 models short of finishing my 2,300 points list that I'm planning. Maybe it changes a little bit over time, but I am planning on taking this to Clash of Kings. And I'll be honest, I'm really proud of how it looks. I'm really happy with how it looks. I put a lot of work into it, and for me, that's a really good standard. So I'm looking forward to bringing it. I'm rather proud of it, to be quite honest. I don't imagine I'll be winning any awards, but that doesn't matter.
That's it, isn't it? And that's, people put a lot of love and time into their armies, and I want people to feel like it's worth doing that. And it's, there's a lot of armies to wander around and look at, but we've got 2 days to do it, so it's worth doing, I think. I've dropped a Northern Alliance Clansman on the floor, and I can't see where he bloody is.
Oh, when you build models, it's all
so
part
many
of the fun,
bells,
isn't
and
it?
it still couldn't, attach itself properly.
I don't know how I found it. How did it happen? I drop on and I go on my one of those patterned rugs, and I'll find bits of a miniature on it like months later, and they just vanish into a void. There's like a void underneath each hobbyist's desk into which bits of miniatures and you watch them fall, you watch where they land, and then they go whoop, and they just kind of disappear into the void as a tiny portal opens up, and 3 months later they appear when you're hoovering.
Yep,
it's like socks in the dryer. They just disappear.
Right. It's the carpet people. It's a Terry Pratchett book. I think one of his first books is The Carpet People. You not read this one?
I'm not sure I've ever read it.
I never liked
my
these
favorite
books.
books.
Yeah, no.
It's a really nice one.
Hey guys, we were actually my tip, when inevitably you drop a piece of arm or something you're trying to glue together when you're building a model, when you drop something on the floor, my tip is take a second before you react. Like, just give yourself a moment to think, hang on a second, where did that drop? Because I find it better if I just give myself a moment just to have a little look. Don't move your chair. Don't do anything crazy. Just give yourself a second. And hey, guys, we've talked about it sort of a couple of times over the pod, but we were talking about pet peeves. And one pet peeve I've mostly managed to solve was about my own behaviour. And that was, and Clem can speak to this. So, what I used to do was just get very overexcited on my turn of Kings of War, pick up a model, go to move it, and then Clem or whoever would say, no. You can't move it like that. And my humble apologies. And then I'm holding the model. Where was it, Clem? I don't know. So I just put down the cheeky little undo button, just a little marker before I move the unit, and I'm getting much better at actually remembering to do that each time now. Just follow the process, Chris. Follow the process, and it does make a big difference, because it is, to be honest, it is. I know I'm not a competitive gamer, but if I play against somebody else, it's not really fair to do that to them, because it's changing the board state. And of course, if I play in a tournament when I go to Clash of Kings, it might change something. I mean, it might,
Yeah.
So
I don't know. That is true. I kind of have something against sloppy play, and it's not necessarily with bad intentions or something.
But you're describing me there, Clem. Let's not. No, because I am a sloppy.
You're doing a lot better now.
Player.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Or the one thing that I can think of now is people who pick up good dice, or that they roll a bit too fast. Sometimes I find it a bit annoying, or like sometimes people will roll in a dice tray. It's a bit too tall and you don't see what's going on.
Yeah,
it's not that I don't trust
that's the
them.
thing. Who designed these dice trays though? Because they're they're very common ones. You can't see sitting across the table. You can't actually see into their dice tray. It's really annoying.
Or the weird ways of marking damage is a bit annoying because then I don't really remember what's going on the table.
People swear by those little thimble things, like those little sewing, whatever they are. I don't even understand what they are. But you can't see the number on those. Come on, you've got to be able to see it across the table.
Yeah, they're stitch counters.
Exactly, for damage counters, Mark. That's what I mean. Thanks for explaining that, Mark.
And it's not even a trust issue or anything. It's more I like to understand what's going on.
As you're planning your move, you should know, okay, that's 8 wounds on that one, 4 wounds on that one. It's just common knowledge, right? You shouldn't have to. How many wounds is on that one again?
Yeah. I think there's a bit of this. I guess it's also a personality trait on my side, right? Like for most people, it's probably completely fine. And when you need to, you could just ask about one thing. But like, for example, I hate, a birthday surprise is like a nightmare scenario for me or something, So in that direction, like not knowing, like, okay, how good is the roll that is going on right now? And I'm not even assuming you're cheating with it, but I want to also see when it's happening, what is happening. So, yeah.
So just so the dear listener knows, Clem, when is your birthday again?
Yes, absolutely. No, I have some. It's kind of weird. Like I like not celebrating it, or like on I don't know. I'm a bit weird in case you hadn't noticed yet.
Oh, come on.
In my own
we have
way.
toy soldiers as our hobby. Of course we're weird. That's fine. But come on, if you're not weird, you're kind of boring. So
absolutely, yes.
What did you do last night? Oh, I watched something on Netflix. Oh, okay. Right. Okay. Good. People with no hobbies, that's I want to make. I'm making sweeping generalizations, but
yeah, that part is a bit sad. Or like working too much and then not having much on the side is a bit sad too. Anyway, so if I understand correctly, just to get back on topic, you're basically done with 2,300 points when the target was 750, right?
Yeah, and I'm really happy with how it looks.
I'm at 19. Whatever 2,300 takeaway unit of Berserkers is. Yeah.
To be honest, Clem, I haven't really done anything in the past month. So, I've been off doing Antari stuff and things like that. Sorry, Mark.
I was going to say, Steve, are you using the Northern Alliance for Berserkers? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, with the two-handed weapons, yeah. They look all right. They look good.
Yeah, there you go. I was trying to figure out what you were using them for.
Yeah, for the Fanatics. So yeah.
Yeah, some people aren't that keen on those models, the human clansmen. I absolutely love them. I think they're great, fun to paint, easy to paint. I think they look awesome.
Too many bloody straps.
Yeah, I've killed 40 different small animals to make this an ensemble to go into battle.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, straps. You want straps? Paint the generic Basilean blah 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 horse.
Oh man, the horses.
Oh, those kill me.
Oh, there is. Yeah, there's a lot.
I'm going to move the conversation on now because it's just going to be people going, yeah, they are bad, aren't they? For the next.
They're not bad. They're lovely. There's just a lot of straps to paint.
Yeah.
I'm Scott, aka Palette of War. Welcome to Mantic Universe Podcast, and check out my YouTube and Instagram.
Hey there, I'm Brian.
And I'm Rick.
From Deadzone, the podcast.
And you're listening to Mantic Universe Podcast.
For everything Mantic under the sun.
Mark, what will it take for you to do a new 2,300 point army from scratch? What would it take? I love the story of your
first thing. Time. That'd be the first thing. Time. So actually, yeah, I've actually been thinking about that. Actually, it's like, which army would I take up? One of the fun things I find about the 500 pointers or 750s, I really don't get all that worried about list building. If I'm going 2,300 points, 1995 or something, you want to paint something that's going to mean something when you get up to that level, and painting a decent army and getting a good list and everything else like that. So maybe in the background, that's why I don't crank those out as much as I could. I like the lower point armies. It's not as much of a job to get them done, I guess. But I have been thinking about that lately. So one of the thoughts I have, I was going to do the Riftforged Orcs for the countercharge painting challenge last year. And for some reason, I painted everything but. I have one unit of infantry done. That is it. So I don't know. I'm thinking Abyssals maybe now, because I've got a really simplistic paint scheme that I think I could replicate across an army, which would be good. So that's what I'm thinking at the moment. But that's what it would take, more so time, a simple paint scheme that I can, get on with. And that's what I think.
I've sort of, on the side to doing my Twilight Kin army and also Antares, on the side I have actually been spending a little bit of time on my Riftforged Orcs, which were, done, but I'm just trying to make them look a little bit nicer, and it does make a difference actually. So I'm keeping all the models on their multi-bases, and then I'm just getting the brush and, just trying to make them look a little bit nicer. And I think Steve mentioned a few weeks ago, don't worry about detail on any areas that wouldn't get light. So, trying to be mindful of that. And I'm really enjoying it. That's probably going to be the next thing I work on. And then, to be honest, I'll probably go back to my Empire of Dust and just try and make that look, another 30% nicer. Mark.
I just got to mention, Steve taught me that, or was trying to teach me, I haven't not mastered it yet, this new painting style with the lighter up and the darker lower half. I've kind of Zelenskified it, but it's really cool. Now, it's really hard for me to think out of the box with that, but, I'm looking at my halflings going, they actually look pretty good. I didn't do a great job on them, but I see where I'm going with that. And so, yeah, that's it. Now, the Abyssals I'm working on, that's in my classic style. So, that's why it would be quick. But yeah, I'm going to have to work on another army and try that again. I don't know if it was speed paint, but I don't know. I want to try it again. So that's all. I think my halflings look pretty good.
Oh, I've ordered some. They were on sale. I've ordered, I think, about 10 different types of army painter speed paints because people say they're really, really nice. I'm going to kind of mix them into things and, use them to make glazes and things like that, and just have a little play around with them. But yeah, they should be here in the next couple of days. That's looking forward to that.
Yeah, I haven't tried them. The one interesting part with armies and also with playing more often, like organizing now gaming evenings every other week or so, is it kind of makes me question my previous strategy of having basically one army a year, sort of. Like, 23 was the year of the salamanders. For the one event I went to with them, the year before was Night Stalkers, and so on and so forth. So now I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to, more diversity, or like play different stuff. But my army isn't done yet, so it's a bit of a bummer. I don't even know what I'm going to take to Warsaw in May, for example. Like, I think there's no way my 2,300 points of goblins will be ready by then. Meaning, I guess I will have to take the salamanders, or dust off the Night Stalkers that I played the year before,
or the Abyss from the year before,
or the Abyss from even before. So that's an interesting side effect of playing a bit more,
But actually, I think that's really interesting because you're going back to an army you love, and you have great memories with your army, but the rules have changed a little bit. It's freshened up a little bit. So maybe you can go back to that with a little bit fresh eyes and see how you do, knowing gobos are on the way. It's cool.
That could be an interesting thing. Like for me, it feels a bit weird because obviously May is still in quite a while, and so there are still scenarios in which if I push it, I could get the goblins ready in time for Kings of Warsaw. That could actually be a good deadline because this is the main event I'm going to go to this year. I don't have other plans for later in 24 yet. Like there's one event in Austria that I might go to in the summer. It's not so easy.
I think there's one in Germany, and I completely forget when it is. I think I signed up for it, but it may even just be a one-day
I need to double check about that. But anyway, so
I need to check. Yeah.
My point is, right now the goblins is more because I love goblins and I loved the Ascent of the Goblin King, and I thought, okay, 24 is the year for me to make Mantic goblins. But on the gaming perspective and like taking them to events and so on, and have kind of something to look forward to, it's still a bit open. But yeah, I mean, my strategy for the fast map was kind of like to put all of the tough units, like the hard to paint units, like that demand a bit more work and effort, for giving me a reason to move forward with them. So once I'm done with my 4 regiments for the 750 points list, I'm basically good to go for the 2300 point list, because I have 2 hordes, I think, of rebels in that list as it is right now. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of still an open question, and obviously I've had quite a while without painting at all. Then I was building terrain for the tournament, so yeah, I'm not sure. I'll see how it goes. And yes, Mark.
Oh, so I just sitting here listening. It all sounds good, and I keep hearing, Kings of Warsaw. So, it's I keep getting all these bucket list trips, that I want to take. So,
I mean, yeah, if not this year, next year as well. That's also an option.
Yeah, I'm trying to talk my wife into coming to visit Berlin. So
that is also absolutely an option. Like the door here is wide open, absolutely. And yeah, no, I guess I'll see. The other thing, obviously, is I still love 10 mil Kings of War, and contractually speaking, I have to talk about it every episode, Chris. And for this as well, like I'm like, oh, I want to make this army, or hey, I want to make that army, and yeah, I have to focus a little bit. And now I'm trying to say, okay, I don't paint anything else than the goblins next, because I think it would look bad if I show up to my own events late March with unfinished ambush goblins.
I completely agree with you, Clem. The only thing I'd say is you've just got a couple of little bits of Antares to do first. That's the only thing I'd say.
Maybe I'll see. I need to ask you for color scheme advice and so on, but that's.
I'm very willing to give it.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. But so, and Mark, you were doing abyssals for the fast map, right?
I did. I finished them. So I got my abyssals done, 750 finished, done. I have the Night Stalkers up to 500. And they are going to go to 752. I'm going to build, I think, a unit of Reapers, so to add into there, and that should take care of it. So,
can I just say, Mark, I love the Reaper models and I love painting them. They were so cool. So I've got myself an extra box of Reapers just because I enjoy them, and I think I'll just liberally sprinkle them throughout my Night Stalker unit. My Twilight Kin units, because I just love those models. They're so fun.
Right. Well, the nice thing is they have some utility, because they can go in the Night Stalkers and they can go in the Twilight Kin. So
completely.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why I'm thinking about doing them in troops, and then that way I can throw them, mix and match them with everything. If I need to get a regiment out of them, I'll just throw the 2 troops together. So, but
at some point, guys, Amazon UK had a pricing error on the Night Stalkers ambush boxes, and they had them for £15. So they wouldn't deliver them to Germany. So I just ordered them to my parents' house, and I know I've got 3 of those ambush boxes waiting for me next time I pick them up. So I got 3 boxes for the price of 1, basically, which is already a phenomenal deal. So that's cool. So I'm not sure when I'll get to my parents next, but when I do
Christmas.
In
June.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Christmas in June, right? Because you have
cool.
3 boxes already.
I need him to do that with Northern Alliance, because, with all those frost claws I need, that would be great.
That's on the to-do list as well. At some point, because I don't have any of the fancy new Northern Alliance models. It was my first Kings of War army when 3rd edition dropped. So yeah, at some point I'll pick up probably about roughly 3 ambush boxes to get the new models, and then I'll use that as an excuse to just, well, maybe I tidy it up a little bit as well, because I think it's aged pretty well, all things considered. It was the first rank and flank army I ever painted. It doesn't look as bad as you might think, but I could make it look a lot nicer with a bit of work, you know.
Yeah, I mean, also the newer units bring something interesting to the list. So yeah, if you get also the 2-player starter, like the updated version of it, is pretty good content. I basically got myself one for both of these factions as well. And yeah, I mean, a few ambush boxes and you're all set to expand on there. That's pretty good.
Nice. So it's been very satisfying, to be honest, Clem, in as much as both of us have had a lot of regular game time locally, right? It's been really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to figure out exactly a recipe for it, because locally I'm still kind of the agitator, if that makes sense. Like it's still sort of revolving around me pushing, hey guys, let's meet up next week Wednesday. Who can come to the shop or to the club here? Or hey, in 2 weeks Friday, and so on and so forth. So I'm still kind of trying to find my, cruise control, lower effort organization to make it happen. Sadly, I think life happens, and so it's hard to, have, hey, every Friday or every other Friday we always do this, and you just show up and someone will be there playing.
That's for down the road, though, Clem, isn't it? That's
maybe when I retire, maybe, I don't know. And not even then.
But if you can build the community to, let's say, 15 people, right, then it's realistic. Then you could have a night of the week that even if only 4 people turn up consistently, that people can be confident of getting a game in, right? You've got to grow the community a little bit bigger before that's
that's a good point. Although I think there might be something about here, because as far as I know, this doesn't exist even for 40K, right? Like, it's still just not how people around me here organize their games and so on. So I don't know. Maybe it's just. And personally, I'm also not certain I would want to have. Oh, it's only on the Friday or something like this that you show up and you go play from, 6 to 11 or something. So I don't know. Obviously, the group that we have locally now is growing. It's bigger. It's relatively healthy, I think. And like people are also, helping organize, and they help for the tournament and they want to help for the next one. So yeah, I'm not even complaining. It's more I'm still myself trying to figure out exactly what I want out of this and how to make it happen, But it's kind of a progress though compared to a year ago, I think. Absolutely. To get back to what you were saying.
And for the next event, Clem, do you think you'll stay in small scale, or do you think you will jump around a bit?
So I think I want to have different classes of events, right? Obviously, the next 2 events are not small scale, like they're 28 mil, one for ambush, one for sci-fi. These are not tournaments though, like at least not the way things are planned for now. It's more an open gaming day and a bit free for all, whatever you want to play. The space is here, and that people will show up, and so you show up as well, and then you'll get games in. I think I will definitely do another 10 mil tournament sometime later in the year, not sure when. But I think I also want to do a 20. What did I say? A 10 mil Kings of War tournament, but I also want to do a 28 mil one, because I think a lot of people are just looking forward to having one. It's just some idiot has to organize it and go through the pain of making it happen. And so I think I'll just be that idiot and do it.
Yeah, and to be honest, buddy, you've got a lot on, and you don't have to do this forever. So if you can do this for 6 months, 12 months, if at that point, and to be honest, I could imagine you actually really enjoying it. But if there's a point you're like, do you know what? I've had enough of this now. By that point, you've built a community, and almost certainly you'll have someone who you say, yeah, I've done my bit. I just want to be a player now. I just want to enjoy. We've built this community, but I just want to play now. I'm sure somebody else will be there to go, hey, I'll give it a go. Clem, you've done your part.
Yeah. Oh, I'm absolutely sure. Like last weekend, for example, some of the players told me, hey, do you want to take over for one of the rounds, like play my army, or like play your armies, because I was, the ringer for the event. And I said, you know what? No, I'm actually happy, to go between tables and have chats with people, especially because there were a lot of newcomers and like new players. And so part of it also kind of felt like doing a demo almost, or like creating an occasion for people to get more into the game. And that part is enjoyable for me as well. At some point, I also just took my laptop and I worked a little bit on some fan-made rules I'm thinking about. So I also had a great gaming day, even though I did not play a single game the whole day. For me, it was still an enjoyable gaming experience. And I think as soon as it becomes like a annoying thing, or I will probably just stop, or like tell the others, hey, can someone take over on this, or maybe just for the next one or something like this. But yes, for now I'm enjoying it. So
yeah, I imagine if it got political somehow or something like that, then it would that wouldn't necessarily be fun. But it's pretty. It's a very important part of growing the community, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, so we've had also some chats about it before recording. I'm trying also to start a board game night at work. So it's kind of it's not just my company, it's like a big co-working space, so to speak. And so the organizers there were super happy with the idea and they support it. And so we've done a couple of events so far. And sadly, there's been one kind of toxic guy. Don't want to say too much about it, but so that's potentially one thing that would be a bit harder to get along with if it happened for the Kings of War gaming group. Although it's a different context, and so if now a new player would join and had toxic behavior, I think I wouldn't have to do much. Like they would be filtered out by the rest of the group. Because there's kind of already an established community of, kind players, I would say, or like people are really here to have a good time and supportive of each other. Like
the precedent is already set, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I think it really sets the mood, And then if someone comes in with a very toxic approach to gaming, or like making shitty, sexist comments all the time, or whatever it is, like whatever way they choose to be toxic, or maybe they tick all of those boxes, like the guy at board game night. Well, these people, they don't stay around for very long, like they just don't find a grip, and then they move along, and then you're fine. But yeah, if for whatever reason the mood would sour a little bit, I guess that would be maybe for me a reason to just go play something else a little bit, or focus more on painting instead of organizing more events and so on. But I don't know. Yeah, it's I guess it's a hobby after all. So as long as I enjoy doing it one way or another, then it's doing its mission.
I do feel it's a real can of worms, and I don't think we could do it quite yet. But I think it would be a real topic of the month of how the conversation around, well, how do you deal with toxic people who come in? I think it is a very universal and interesting topic that is just full of problems, right?
Yeah, I think for me, at least, a very short answer to this is be pretty clear about what kind of environment you expect, and like what is tolerated and what isn't, in a way. And I don't know, and I'm not even saying like my way of doing things is better, and someone who comes in and I think have a toxic approach to it is wrong about it. It's just I don't want to have these type of behavior around my hobbying. And so you're completely free to behave that way and do these type of things elsewhere. Like go and create your own club and bring in all of the people that find your jokes funny or your way of playing the games interesting. I don't, so I have zero desire to keep doing that with you, you know? So I don't know. I think it's always a bit hard because it's a group effort. Like you have to agree with other people what is the identity and how do you want to kind of handle things. But yeah, I have the feeling that ultimately it can sort itself out relatively easily if everyone kind of does the effort of being mindful about what they really want and what is actually okay for them. Because I've seen it in other hobbies, right? It can happen that you don't realize it. Like this kind of like the frog in the boiling, like the warming up water kind of situation. Like you don't realize necessarily that you don't enjoy it anymore, or like maybe the mood has changed a little bit, or like things, or you have changed yourself, and like some stuff that you enjoyed previously now you find more offensive or not fun at all or not enjoyable at all. And so I think it's a healthy thing to do with your hobby, and I would argue anything in life is sometimes to, take a step back and have a hard think about why am I doing this? Do I enjoy it? Do I want to do it slightly differently? Is there something else I could do about it? And I think it's also good to talk about it with friends, or maybe if it becomes a more crisis situation, to talk about it with professionals also, if you need to clear some things out and like figure out what it is that you actually want, or what makes you happy, what makes you unhappy, and so on. And so I think and for my own hobby, that's also, I try to do this every now and then, like sit down and think, okay, which project do I want to work on now? What is making me happy? Well, I really don't feel like painting these days. Well, then I won't paint, and that's it, Or maybe I will think a bit more, why do I not feel like painting? Well, because I don't feel so good in general about other things, or I'm too tired because I work too much, whatever it is. But I think that's a good approach to this, good strategy. And I said shortly, and I talked for 10 minutes, and I'm sorry.
No problem. Mark, what do you think about that?
Well, it's always good to, take a look at the old mental health standpoint of it and enjoying your hobby. So, and, part of it with toxic people and stuff, it's really situation dependent. We had that happen with one of our D&D games, and it actually ended up breaking up. That was the only way we could resolve it, and, which was sad. But in some cases, we've been able to pull the person aside and chat with them and get them back into the groove. And, and it's a hard conversation. You really gotta steal it.
And Mark, sorry, in that situation, Mark, was the individual you're talking about, were they surprised that you had these thoughts? Were they kind of aware of their behavior, if that makes sense?
Which one? The ones we pulled aside, or the game that broke up?
The person who was pulled aside, and you said, just be a little bit aware of how your behavior impacts everybody else. Were they? Because it may well be a situation where the person isn't aware of it, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, it goes both ways. We had one get totally upset and storm off, and that was bad. And then we've had other people that have said, hey, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And a lot of times, the people that say, hey, thanks, I really appreciate that, are, we run into at conventions and stuff like that, because, people will kind of like glom on, kind of like get a pack of people that are playing the same game over and over, not the same game over and over, but just playing games together over and over and over again as you pull them out of the library. And, you got to talk sometimes, or, the one thing I always try to do is to make sure that I try not to set up a situation that's going to be inflammatory, or that I think is going to blow up and, really cause hurt feelings and things like that. So it's difficult to do. Nobody ever wants to be into that situation where you've got to have that conversation. Nobody does. But, sometimes you got to have it. In the one case where we had the D&D game breakup, we just, came up with every excuse and we just spiked the game. We just killed it off. And, we really didn't want to have that confrontation. And, and quite frankly, that was the last scheduled D&D game I've had. So we killed that one off.
Oh no,
and,
Mark! Was it literally the manager just said, "And the volcano explodes and kills all of us"? Wait, there was a volcano.
Sadly, it wasn't even that. Everybody came up with excuses on why they couldn't play, and it just kind of faded away, and it was very sad.
And then you don't schedule the next one, and the one after also doesn't happen. Yeah.
I hope we don't have any dear listeners who hear this and go, "Wait a second, 2 years ago, I was in the games group. Suddenly, little Johnny had music lessons and he couldn't make it. Hang on a second."
Yeah, well, that's one option if you don't want to have the confrontation. So, like I said, we had that situation, and we thought that was the best way to handle it. So
it's awkward as well, particularly if you play in a gaming group or a shop or something where you're going to have to keep seeing these people again. It's not really breaking up, It's
oh yeah, that's tough. I mean, we did have that a couple times at our local shop, and sadly, one of the good responses is you just go somewhere else, or if you don't want to have that confrontation. So it's tough. Nobody wants to do it. So
I guess there are different scenarios, right? Like
they're all different. Every situation's different. There is no stock answer. So.
Also, what I mean is, for some people, so first of all, there are different ways to approach it, like getting to the topic. But I guess some people will get very defensive, or be double down on something. Or some people are like, "Oh gosh, thank you for mentioning it. Like I didn't realize it," or
the kind of person who would apologize and say, "I'm really sorry. Do you know what? I've had a stressful day. I wasn't aware I was doing it. I'm sorry. Thank you for telling me." That sort of person to me feels utterly redeemable, where they're willing to kind of modify their behavior, or there seems like hope there. Do you know what I mean? Whereas the other alternative is they're kind of antagonizing people on purpose. That does definitely happen.
But I think
people are like that.
This also depends on how you approach it and what the issue is. I think I've had this situation as well where, how can I say this? There's not really a comment to be made, or like, hey, please change this. It's more you realize that you've grown apart in a way, or like people you were okay hanging out with for some time. After 6 months, 2 years, whatever, you realize, well, now you're not so much on the same wavelength anymore. And so there's not so much of a talk to be had, right? Like, hey, you've grown in a different way, or hey, now I'm interested in other things, or I see things differently, and so let's stop hanging out or something like this. It just kind of dwindles because you just grow apart, further apart in a way. So I don't know. You don't necessarily have to have this discussion. I think it's more you have to be self-aware, and maybe sometimes you can indirectly also have some sort of these discussions and figure out where the other person stands, especially if it's someone you actually have been playing with for a while. And I think on the other end of the spectrum, if it's someone you don't really know so well and you just kind of met up with them and played a couple of games, and both times it was a really meh experience, I kind of want to say you don't really owe them anything, in the sense that, I mean, basic niceness, like stay polite and not say, "Oh, I think you suck in the way you play," or your mouth stink, please brush your teeth. Obviously that won't work, right? But I don't know, if you realize, well, the way they enjoyed the game is not for me, I'm not sure there's a point in trying to go talk to them and say, "Hey, please play differently, otherwise I won't play with you."
That's a great point, Clem. And there are probably a number of people I've played one game with, and it just hasn't gone any further than that. And it's and the other thing to probably mention is that this is probably a two-way street, so we're kind of focusing on the other person we're playing with. Well, maybe in those situations, if we had the hypothetical other person on this pod with us, maybe they'd say, hang on a second, Chris, but you did such and such, and that was a weird thing to do. And there's almost certainly there's some back and forth on this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's not at all on them, on the other person that the issue lies. Like it's just in this relationship or the way things go, just doesn't work for you one way or another. And so, yeah, you just have to think a bit about it and see if you want to salvage it or try to transform it, if it's even worth it or possible, right? Because it could be some very basic things or some things that can be discussed, and some others is just like, I don't think it's worth it, right? Like, I don't know. I don't think I want to be the one telling someone, hey, please shower more often before you can play, because it's just hard to be in the same room with you for 2 hours, Like if it was a friend that I know from something else and it's a relationship I want to maintain, then maybe. Otherwise, I don't really feel I'm in a situation to have this type of comment to someone. I don't know. Then I guess it depends on every situation. Like if maybe you see there's something else going on, maybe you might want to support someone. I don't know. But then again, if it's someone that just has poor behaviors, like, yeah, I don't owe you my time, and I don't have to put any efforts to make you a better person. And it's also according to my definition, you probably don't even want any of this.
But very, very brief anecdote, avoiding any specifics. But before I came to Germany, I was in a kind of a board game, card game club, right, in the town I was living in, and there was always a guy who was, let's just say, off, right, just not fun to play with, difficult. And after I'd been there a little while, I got really friendly with another couple of guys, and we were playing a game around one of their houses. And I just kind of mentioned this guy and said, is it just me or is it a little bit off? And they kind of all, even their wives were like laughing, had a big laugh and say, are you kidding me? That guy's he's just, oh God, there's a reason we all show up late. It's to make sure, guarantee we're not playing with this guy. And they basically turned it's a bit mean, they turned his name into a kind of like a made up verb, which was like, if you're playing a game and you want to be screw someone else over, okay, I'm about, be careful because I'm about to hit you now.
Yes.
And they'd all laugh, and it was trying to make, because actually it was bad. Like this was it wasn't just a subtle someone who's not brilliant with social skills. It wasn't. I mean, Claire, before the pod, and I don't want to go into it, but you were talking about someone in particular, and it's similar things, just. And not someone who is not positive and supportive, etc. And maybe we can leave it at that. But actually, having this, while it's a little bit mean to talk about someone behind their back, actually this really broke the tension in as much as it made it into a little bit of almost fun of it, because it was something that really could have destroyed the gaming club, to be honest. But instead, it was kind of all a bit of a joke. And so I wonder if it's seeing the positive of that, because no one had the power to get rid of this individual. It was never going to happen. So
you kind of have to deal with it in
exactly
a way, I guess,
a way of dealing with the situation as best as people can. And it was really funny, I'll be honest. It was really, really funny just finding out there was this kind of secret society of, and it was all like the cool people that I'd go for a beer with, kind of thing.
There you go. Some of those situations, your shop owner, if you're playing in the shop, is going to be the great equalizer. So particularly you mentioned the body odor problem and stuff like that. It's their business. They don't want their business being harmed. And so that's another option, is to talk to them and, see. And they usually don't have a real problem having that conversation. That's another option
neutral for them.
Yeah, very neutral. It's not you.
Personal level.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Clem, we have someone on the call who used to be a shop owner. So, Mark, come on, talk to us. Did you ever have to step in as the shop owner and have these kinds of conversations?
Sadly, twice. Yes. So, one was a body odor problem, and one was a play style problem. And they're very unpleasant, conversations to have. Unfortunately, the result of my body odor conversation didn't come back to the shop ever. And so, you lose a customer, but the other customers were very happy about that. And so, that kind of compensated for that. They kept buying and kept showing up to the things. And the other situation, we had the guy was really enjoying kicking the crap out of the kids that were trying to learn how to play the game. It's like, dude, you do not have to win that bad, do you? You really got to beat up middle school kids on the table. And, fortunately that conversation turned around a little more positive at the end. And actually he became, pretty good guy that, would help the kids as opposed to kick the, blank out of them all over the table. So, kind of more like the Grinch, his heart grew 10 times too large. And, it worked out pretty good from that standpoint. So I've had them go good and bad, but, they're not fun conversations. This is honestly stuff nobody wants to do.
No, of course.
To deal with. So
it's entirely possible that that individual had never really thought about it, and probably when they were shown the game and everything, they had a very competitive, get good scrub kind of a attitude, or they were raised in that kind of culture and environment, which is just very unforgiving and not a supportive one. It's very unlikely they just like, smashing children at a tabletop game that they're supposed to be introducing to it,
Well, it's just like, how are they going to get good if if they don't learn by getting their faces pushed in? And it's like, dude, they're not going to play anymore if you keep doing that. It's like,
this is not fun for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun, but, and you don't necessarily have to let the Wookiee win, but you just don't dismantle them and, just kind of like get off on it. It's just like, they view you as laughing as you're destroying them. And it's like, that's no fun. They have fun playing their friends and they like to paint and stuff. And if you want this hobby to grow, you don't do that. And fortunately, that turned around and everything worked a lot better. But again, never a situation you want to be in. You just hope everybody kind of flies straight, but it doesn't always happen. But difficult situation.
This is kind of the common saying, right? Like if you don't think your neighbors are loud, it means you probably are the loud neighbor, And so my wife and I, we would tend, I think, to be the loud neighbors. So we always try, but we know about it. Like if we are not careful, that we would end up being not so mindful of the noise we make and so on. And I think that's something you have to know about yourself and try to be a bit proactive. And then we try to go around and tell people or tell the neighbors always, hey, please, because it's very easy, like you watch a movie or you listen to music and you don't think it's at a crazy level, but actually it's too loud for the neighbor, and maybe the neighbor don't want to be too annoying, and so they just take it on, and they never say anything, but they, just the bitterness would grow, and so that's why we try to always make it very clear. Please, at any time, if there's anything, just send us a message. Like we always give, phone numbers. And so on. And so, yeah, I guess in some situations, it's really easy to be oblivious to what you do that is annoying to others. And maybe if you try to be more proactive about it, or if you see something that is annoying to you, maybe you can progressively try to hint at it and not just keep it inside and just grow angry about it, is what I'm saying.
But again, Clem, you're creating that culture where communication is expected, it's
right.
It's
absolutely.
A great point.
No, but I think it's it also applies in other social contexts, for example in a gaming group, right?
Definitely does.
Or same thing for the tournament, like in the tiny speech at the start, I also try to set the rules, like the social rules, a bit more explicitly forward, and try to create an environment where you can have this type of discussions, or like where people hopefully will come to you and tell you if there's anything wrong. And I think it kind of goes in this direction. And again, every situation is different. So good luck figuring out what works.
Exactly,
well done, guys.
exactly.
So we've not only found a topic of the month, but we've also just spontaneously grafted it into another part of the pod. So well done, guys. But it's a topic, we've not solved anything, but I think it's interesting to have the conversation, and I think it's important. It's as awkward as it is, and difficult as it is, and problematic as it is. I think it's something we all experience from time to time. We're very, very lucky in Mantic that it is such a lovely, supportive environment, but of course we want to be very protective of that, to make sure it stays that way, because it would only take one or two bad apples to cause issues, right? But
I think it's also an important job as part of the community animator, like when you try to grow a community, to be yourself a bit more explicit and forward with what are the rules and what are the conventions that the group kind of takes for granted, and kind of what is accepted, what isn't, I think. And I think it's important to set the tone for it. And in a way, you get the power to decide, because you are doing the work to create the community. So you do get to set the rules. And maybe your rules are everyone must tattoo a bird in their forehead, then no one will join your group.
No, but the rules,
right?
the crucial point is the rules are for the good and the health of the community.
But whatever that means, right? Like maybe there are different ways to do it. Like I have my own version of what I think is a healthy and enjoyable environment. Maybe other people might slightly disagree with my version of it, or maybe would also allow some stuff that for me are not so good or I don't enjoy so much, for example, that I might be neutral for. One example is drinking, for example. This is kind of just a side comment. There was one newcomer on Fanatics who said, hey, I'm about to go to my first tournament or whatever it was. I don't even remember exactly. And people gave tons of very good advice, good comments, and so on. And someone in passing said, oh, and bring a good liver. And to me, it's not a great comment, because I have a bad liver, and so I can drink very limited amount of alcohol, turns out. So it's a bit stupid, but to me, it's like, is it really needed? Like, no, you can also go to a tournament or play games and not necessarily drink alcohol and still have a good time. And so I won't go around and say, hey, you shouldn't drink when you go to a tournament or whatever. Like, do whatever you want, It's just, I think there are some things like this. It's more, you get to set the mood, and when you create a community or a local group, or when you do an event, you can kind of choose a little bit of the culture that you wanna have there, and then you cultivate the culture, right? Like communicate about it and then cultivate it.
This is Rob Fnuff from the Countercharge Podcast, and you're listening to the Mantic Universe Podcast.
Yeah, everybody's got to be flexible. So, not everybody's going to drink. And, then again, there's going to be a ton of people that are going to drink. And so, some people are going to like eating fried fish, and some people aren't going to like eating fried fish. So,
right. Yeah, I mean, if there's space for everyone, it's fine. I'll give you another kind of dumb anecdote, but I went to a work retreat a month ago or something, and the plan was, let's have dinner and then open bar and very loud music. And I was like, yeah, I'm happy to go. It's like the Germany-wide event, like company event. I'm like, yeah, I'm happy to take a train and go to the other location and meet the whole company and so on. But to me, it absolutely does not sound like a fun evening to drink lots of alcohol and have loud music. Please give me another room where I can play Mario Kart with my colleagues while eating peanuts or chatting about, I don't know, like, where's the nerd space in this? Do you mean the only employees you want is the one who gets blackout drunk while dancing? I don't know. I think it's kind of a missed opportunity in a way. And for gaming, it's a bit more focused, right? Like, we are here potentially to play games, I guess. So you can narrow it down a little bit more. But it's still, I think, important. Like, you could play games just because you want to train for the world championship of whatever. Or you could play games because you want to recreate whichever World War II battle. Or you could play games because you have cool painted miniatures and you want to roll some dice and that's it. whatever it is that you're actually interested in, you need to make this known to the other participants, and whoever also likes it then will join, and people who don't like this particular aspect or are not so interested will stay home on that day. Again, it's about communicating your intent and making it clear so that people who also like the same things will find you and join you.
Super. So I think we can call that our topic of the month, guys. I think it's fair to say.
Pretty much.
So let's just do very, very quickly then, guys, if you're okay with it. So we've got Pannilore, and I don't want to skip Pannilore because we've skipped it recently, but let's just very, very briefly. So we've got here as part of the Epic Warpath lore, it's a lovely idea to do just something quick on that. And part one is talking about the Death Arc, and we've got here written in the notes, Death Arc, Asterians more serious than humans in fighting the plague. So anyone that doesn't know, the Death Arc is a very, very cool thing. But the Asterians, they call it the Silent Lands. So I'm just going to read out here just the very quick sentence from the Kickstarter page. And so this is update number 8, day 6. Oh, Captain, my Captain. So Epic Warpath Lore Part 1, the Death Arc. Around the GCPS's western border of 4th and 5th sphere worlds lies a region of space known to corporate navigators as the Death Arc and as the Silent Lands to the Asterians. Travel here is expressly forbidden. Standard nav comps do not even register any celestial bodies being there at all. And the Ark is guarded by a special division of the Enforcer Corps known as the Long Patrol, which is a very, very cool name, by the way. So, guys, why? So we know that the Death Arc was a section of space. The plague got out, and everything in there was basically eradicated. So within the Death Arc, there's still cities, but they're all completely vacant. So we know the enforcers patrol it ostensibly to keep the plague in, and I think there's a lot of truth in that because there are artifacts in there that do cause the plague. But I think, Clem, it's pretty clear why the Asterians seem to take it more seriously than the enforcers.
I don't know. So first of all, one thing I want to say is it kind of goes against my own slowly built canon where the Asterians are the bad guys. Because there's a part of my head somewhere that wants to say the Asterians are kind of the cause of the plague, and like they're playing like a really multi-level game on this, and I don't know, because when you think about it, the only thing that really stops the GCPS and the enforcers is the plague. Like this is the existential threat in the universe. That's the number one. And so I don't know, like I kind of want to see the Asterians as the bad guys is what I'm saying. But when I read this piece of fluff, it kind of makes me think, well, maybe actually no, it's just they have more experience fighting it or being exposed to it, and so they take it more seriously. But there's still a big question mark for me somehow, because why would the Asterians care so much about if the GCPS gets plagued or not?
So because they love the well. Sorry, you could interpret it as saying that they're obsessed with this idea of balance. But I think honestly, the Asterians seem to be taking it more seriously than the GCPS because there's a load of valuable stuff in the Death Arc, Clem. And GCPS, if we know one thing about them, they, the profits of what's in there, technology, resources, whatever, that's going to well outweigh any potential risks of a plague outbreak. They're going to be, running the
they're just reckless and send some poor souls and be plagued and still profit from it. Yeah, but then again, what's the matter from an Asterian's perspective if like some GCPS worlds gets plagued? Well,
because I think that's when the ball starts rolling with the plague, it's not going to be some worlds. It's the contagion of, if we talk about the First World War, this idea that the Germans actually put Lenin on a train, and Germany was one of the most conservative countries in the world at the time, but they were so desperate to undermine the Russian government, which was also very right-wing authoritarian, they put their bitterest enemy really on a train from Switzerland and let him pass through almost the length of Germany to get him up to Russia So he could, starting, I think Dan Carlin described it as starting a fire in your neighbor's kitchen. So, but the contagion is not going to stop when you want it to.
That's kind
super
of a question, right? I'm not even sure in the Warpath universe how integrated societies are. Like, do you find Asterians on the GCPS worlds and vice versa, and Forge Fathers and so on?
So not
so much,
not overtly. Right? I mean, there are some, but not super overtly. The GCPS, I think, doesn't like the idea that people know. It's a bit like, so for example, they don't want anyone to know the Forge Fathers are making kit for the Enforcers. Like, that's a very guarded secret. They don't want anyone to know that. And there's probably a lot of secret deals they've got with the Asterians as well. I suspect below the surface, the GCPS is actually an awful lot more dependent on the Asterians and the Enforcers, well, definitely the Forge Fathers, than they'd like anyone to know or they'd like to admit. So I suspect that capitalism runs deep, right? I think they've got there for good and for bad. I think they've probably got their hooks into many things that they don't talk about. But it's because I think, wasn't Rob Berman talking about writing a short story at least of a Forge Father, kind of like almost like a Decker from Blade Runner, like a private investigator set within the GCPS. So
yeah, I think so. So yes, it's not entirely separated and so on, but my impression would be that they, like the commercial exchanges, for example, are fairly limited, or at least very well delimited. Like maybe there are some military contracts or some very specific deals, or like peace treaties or something like this. But I don't see them working too closely together. So I don't know. Like, I'm still trying to figure out exactly how the Asterians are, involved in the whole thing, and they are indeed mysterious. You know what I mean?
They are, and I think firstly, I think it's interesting that they're mysterious, because I agree with you, Clem. You could interpret that one of two ways at least, right? Are they responsible for the plague? Is it all their fault? Are they the bad guys? But you could read it the other way as well, and I think we just need more lore and more stuff on it. I suspect they are behind. So what I would like to happen is it's a very grey area of, are they behind the plague? Yeah, kind of, but it's a bit more complicated than that, and maybe they. So I'd like it to be something. If I'm honest, I'd like it to be something like the Asterians were fighting. A long time ago, Asterians were fighting against somebody else who developed this biological weapon, like very long time ago. And the Asterians, at great cost, a huge amount of their empire was wiped out fighting against these guys, but they won this terrible war. But now they're left in possession of this terrible weapon that maybe they can control and maybe they can't. Something like that.
Or it could be also, something like a byproduct or like a waste from something that they've done millennia ago. Like they've done some genetic engineering or whatever on themselves, or like to solve whatever societal issue, like resource issues, and the plague was kind of a tool in bit, or you would say like nuclear waste, something like imagine mankind in 20,000 years if we're still around, and the nuclear waste, like the long life nuclear waste that we have now, might be something that mankind in 20,000 years have a completely different view on,
Yeah, or
so maybe there's a kind of a parallel to this, like the Asterians are half the cause and half have suffered from it, and so they kind of want to block the humans from touching it too much or suffer from the same consequences. I think I agree with you with the fact that I think it's very interesting that it is a gray area, and I don't want to have, this is the canon, this is precisely how it's defined forever, and you can't have it any other way, because it would be a bit boring. But yeah, I think it's very, very rich and
And also, Clem, like the real world is messy, right? So if we think about, like, for example, I think I mentioned on the pod before, right, the conquistadors who went to Central America. A lot of those guys were horrible people who were out for themselves, but there were also a lot of people who were almost naively try and help the locals. I mean, the fact that genocide happened and disease and everything like this, it was a total disaster for them. But there were genuinely people who thought they were doing the right thing, to help these people. So maybe
I think
it could be some Mysterians think, it could be a bit of both, Yeah,
I think in general, not many people actively see themselves as the bad guy, right? I think this is almost never the case. It's just
the protagonist of our own story, right? I mean, of course, even, and getting dark now, but even, of course, Adolf Hitler, he did not see himself as the bad guy. He was saving Germany, right? As disgusting as that is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's I think that's why I don't like the in the traditional lore stuff in Kings of War, for example, when there's evil and good and neutral. Because I don't really believe in that. We don't like. It's kind of a simplistic way.
It is super simplistic, yeah.
And I think no evil faction actually sees themselves as evil, or when they do, it's a very, comical, like, I'm the bad skeleton master, or whatever, or like in B series or worse. And I don't think that those tell very interesting stories. But anyway, so to get back to the epic Warpath stuff. I feel like there are tons of stories to be told, and I had a bit of a worry, like a couple episodes ago, I think, like how does the Warpath universe and like Firefight scale to larger conflicts? And I think I'm starting to see it a bit more now. Also because even though 10 mil on 6x4 is a lot more real estate, it's still not like planetary fight. So you could tell almost the same stories with epic Warpath, than you do
as you do with Firefight. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just you have a bit more room for it, but it's not fundamentally different. It's not like a space fight versus a squad-based fight. But yeah, I think, Mark, you mentioned there are no plans right now to have a novel come out at the same time as the game comes out in about a year. But I really wish some authors would jump into the Warpath universe and write some cool stories for us.
I just love Rob Berman to write that story with the gumshoe private detective. I'd love that. Sorry, Mark.
I was just going to say that right now Mantic is pushing on the Kickstarter that you can go download the Warpath lore for free from the Mantic website. So that's what they're pushing as lore at the moment. And, it's the overall. Yeah, it's the overall. I mean, it's the same universe. So, yeah.
No, it's a good starting point. What I'm saying is, so people say all the time, oh, there's no lore in Mantic Games. I disagree. Like, there's tons of it, and I think it's great. And also people say, oh, I love 40k lore. I find it quite boring. Like, I've never read an actual 40k book, but I don't really have any interest in doing so. I guess, I don't know, like what I see from the outside doesn't make me think, oh, I definitely want to read a story about it. It's like skulls and this war always everywhere.
Sorry, Clem, I'll get to that in a second. I just want to interject a little bit. The increased focus on lore for Mantic, is it too early to say maybe Andy's has a hand in that? Or do you think, he's only been in the job a month?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
I think a little early.
Been a process. It's been a process, right? Like we've come from Mantica to Pannithor, and that wasn't a month ago. So I think it's still a journey, right? Like there's still more for them to write and structure and so on. But I guess my whole point is, we've talked about it so many times. I loved Rob's short story in the Warpath universe, like the Deadzone story. I thought it was very cool, very thematic. And I just want to read the full book of that stuff. You know what I mean?
Me too. Completely. I completely agree.
And I feel the whole universe with the plague and the mysterious Asterians And the Forge Fathers, I don't like them because dwarves is not my thing. But still, I want to hear more about them. Like this universe really speaks to me, and I just want to read more about it.
But for me, that would be a perfect, Rob's idea of having a private detective. I can just imagine it would be a perfect way of letting us sort of understand more about the GCPS and starting it there. Because I could just imagine, a murder or something. He has to investigate. And of course, he's secretly the patsy. They're kind of setting him up to blame him for something. And, the amazing, cool stuff you could tell with that story. And of course, throw in a plague outbreak or, something like that as well. But I think we'd learn a lot about the universe from this cool story that I'm imagining in my head.
No, absolutely. You can also imagine like you have a very local, very focused, like a noir type of story. That's a very individual thing, but with a background of like the intergalactic contract between different races.
Exactly.
And he's doing his investigation in one dark corner somewhere, like within the block of a futuristic city. But it actually reveals stuff about a very vast universe and tons of planets and tons of stuff and like a much bigger picture.
A huge conspiracy and forces beyond our control and events get out of control. Yeah, totally agree.
I think it's a very rich. Again, it's full of tropes and so on, but tropes are cool exist for a reason, right? Like I would definitely read something like that. So if I could write a book, I would do that, but I don't think I'm capable of it.
I was going to say, writing a book sounds right up your alley there, Clem. So, but
I can
it's
throw away
through, isn't it? It's the follow through.
Yeah. Throwing away some stupid ideas, like writing 5 pages of ideas and plot. Maybe I can do. Transforming that into an actually 80,000 word novel is a completely different.
Just imagine, Brandon coming back to you, go, yeah, Clem, it's really good, but. Wait, what's the protagonist's name again? You've spelt it 4 different ways. Which is it? Oh, Brandon, come on, don't.
Your timeline doesn't match if you read.
Exactly. Don't bother me with the small stuff.
The other thing you guys have been describing is Warpath, the role-playing game. You guys are down into all the way down into the, private detectives and this, that, and the other thing, and the lore. So.
Yeah, I think for me it's the multi-scale part that's interesting. Like like what I like in the Warpath universe is I can relate to it. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like it's crazy robots that are from 20,000 years from today, and life is so awful that we destroy planets every day.
I'm completely with you, Clem. It's
like
relatable. There's a load of normal people watching Dreadball, having a nice life. Most people have a pretty nice life, and then occasionally something terrible happens. I think we talked about this on the pod, right? Whereas you mentioned 40k, I find it quite boring. Yeah, because it's just everything is as depressing as you could possibly imagine it. It's quite childish, and you can't. Where do all the normal people live? There are none. They're all being eaten by an alien. There's no.
Yeah. It's like to the max of turn to 11. It's like, can you make a 6.5, please? It's like, I think I love the lore in Antares as well, just to make a parallel. But in comparison, it's a lot more futuristic. At least I feel.
It's high science fiction at a time where some humans are evolving beyond what humans can do.
Right.
So it's a fascinating time, but it's there are normal people in that too. But
it's a different story,
Mantic,
though.
It's different. It's different. It's much more. Mantic is much more grounded. I think I've described it previously on the pod as it makes me think of like an ultra-violent, like 1980s cartoon. Which I mean that, it's a positive for me. That's a huge positive. It's like hyper realistic. Really over the top characters, larger than life characters. I think it's super cool. And a lot of kind of satire. If you think of like Paul Van Hoven films, was he Paul Van Hoven? Yeah. Sorry, dear listeners, it's very late. If you think of RoboCop or Total Recall or things like this,
right?
Very, very violent and dripping with satire.
And I think there's really some potential here as well, right? Like that's kind of what we were saying also earlier. For please, Mantic, lead the way, right? Like I don't know. I kind of want to have some like various artists, take over this universe and create content for it, like build on this narrative, tell cool stories, maybe even write some books or some shorter stories. But yeah, I just want to throw more money at Mantic so that they can themselves fund some, lore and concept art to flesh out the universe a bit further. And I think, reinforces this identity and creating this solid lore really is a good investment long term. And having seen other universes, I really like this one. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
I don't think it's crazy to suggest though we could all have a crack at just writing a short story in the Warpath universe, just to do it. Literally, could be 2 pages or something, but just something.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting idea. I mean, I'm complaining that I want more novels and more stuff in the Warpath universe. I haven't read all that is out there, so maybe I could also start by doing my homework and reading more. Like I've gone through some of the Warpath source book, but I haven't read it from start to finish. Like
there's a lot there, though.
Yeah, I don't master this lore to begin with, so maybe I should put my money where my mouth is and actually spend more time to, engage with the existing lore there, and then I can figure out where I want to add two more pages. Yeah.
Super.
There you go.
So I think, guys, time's ticking on. Sorry, Steve, I haven't said that yet. So I think, should we move on to listener questions?
Yeah, I think it's a good time to get to that point.
Yes,
absolutely.
So Jeremy Duval of Countercharge. Hey, Jeremy, thanks for listening. Speaking of the Epic Kickstarter, what factions are you guys excited for? I think the art for the Asterian Super Heavy is so cool. So, I think we've discussed it at length. We're excited for pretty much all the factions, right? I'm very excited for the Forge Fathers. I'm very excited for the Asterians. I think the Asterian Super Heavy is kind of a giant mech thing. Am I right?
Yeah, I think it's...
Who doesn't love a giant mech thing?
Yeah, it's kind of the best one so far. Although the renders for the Plague actually won me over. Like the art was a bit, I want to see what they make with it, but the renders are pretty cool. Yeah, so Plague, GCPS, probably Marauders, but at that point I'll get one core box of all of the other factions, just to have a look and to have the option to tell stories with them. But I guess it doesn't really matter on the scale. I'm still stuck with the same things that I love. So GCPS and Plague, definitely. I was very excited for Night Stalkers because I really loved the idea of having one sprue with all of the core Night Stalker stuff in 10 mil, and then reinforcements, so STLs, also for 10 mils. That would have meant one of my next 10 mil Kings of War army would have been Night Stalkers with official models. So that part I'm a bit disappointed about. Maybe they'll come later, but we'll see.
If it does fund enough, and I know we're running out of time, but if Nameless come, I could really imagine us, Clem, like doing a very watery board with kind of like islands on, and the Nameless rebelling against the GCPS for changing the deal for the 100th time, and I think that would be super, super cool. What about you, Mark?
Well, I mean, all of them. So I was going to challenge you guys. Which one is your favorite of all of them? So, boy, I'm having a hard time with that. And just because of play style, I'm kind of leaning towards the Plague. But so far, I don't know why Veerman is calling to me. I like their vehicles with the drills and all that type of stuff. So that I'm going to stay for right now. But it's not definite. But that seems to be it. So
there's something in all of them I really like, though.
Yeah,
when I scroll down and I go, oh yeah,
that's cool.
This just has cool stuff. It's just really cool stuff. Cool play styles. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to see renders for the unlocked factions. I think one other thing I would want to see in Epic Warpath also, although that would be probably way down the line, is more stuff that is unique to it, in the sense that I want larger tanks or larger spaceships And so not just one super heavy, big monster, unique piece you would have on the table, but ideally I would want to fight a battle where I have a bunch of infantry, like some monster-size infantry, like, the Striders, this type of stuff, and then 5 or 10 mules or regular tanks or something, and then 3 or 5 medium-sized tanks, like a actually pretty big flyer or pretty big tank or whatever, or like a double the size of a corruption, but still not yet super heavy level.
I'd also like, Clem, I think that's a great point. I'd also like a few civilian vehicles to narrative gaming, etc. But who knows? Maybe in a year, I think this will be with us in about a year. Maybe something comes on the Vault, which is a new super heavy for one of the factions or something like that. And I'm super excited, obviously, for Brockers. I'm contractually, as Clem always says about 10mm, I'm contractually obligated to mention. I love my Brockers, but the Asterians, things like the Mazdadan look super super cool. But do you know what? One of the things that actually had me go, wow, that looks cool, was just, it was just the little zombies for the Plague. I just saw the little zombie go, oh, that looks so cool.
Yeah, definitely want too many of them. That's the same thing. But, I'm not that much from a style perspective an Asterian person or a Forgefather person. And when I saw the art and like whatever they already have for them, made me think, no, I could get behind them. Like they've done a really good job so far, and I'm really curious to see them like in the plastic flesh.
That's super interesting, Clem, because I don't think, you don't talk about it, but I don't think at all you've had really in Firefight had any particular interest in doing Asterians or Forgefathers in 28mm, right?
Not really. I think it's part of it is because you need to pick your battles, and I'm happy that you are doing them, so I see less of a point of me doing them. But I think 10mm is slightly different as well because, well, obviously now it's a lot cheaper with the Kickstarter, but also later on, even at full retail price, like the core box will still be very reasonably priced and doesn't take that much space. Like it's not like, hey, I need to have a relatively large box or a full shelf to store like a full Asterian army. And so my experience with 10mm is if I want to knock out an army, it won't take me too much money, too much time, too much energy. And it's almost like what people do with skirmish level games, or what Mark does with really smaller formats of, hey, I want a palette cleanser and I just want to do 500 points of this faction and then move on to another one. I feel like 10mm works really well for that. And so in that context, I could see myself, spend a couple of weekends and do a full Asterian force, and that's it. And it would definitely work, and it doesn't sound as crazy as doing it in 28mm. If you see what I mean.
Yeah, great point, Clem. Super. I think so Jeremy, I know Jeremy's excited, and I really really hope he's got some more sweet Warpath content for Countercharge, because I always loved the episodes they do, and I'll be honest, it's a real treat for me when I think they did a Forgefather army review and a Asterian army review, and I really hope they keep making that content. And Firefight's a brilliant game. It just needs a bit of help from the community, doesn't it? Super. Should we move on to the next question? So from Sabretooth Creations, thanks for messaging. With the Walking Dead relaunch day last weekend, can we have an episode on the game, past release, play experience, and upcoming info, etc.? It needs to get more coverage before relaunch. Such a great game. Yes, it is a great game, and we have some ideas to do something along these lines. And we'll get something together. I think it'll be a mup short. But Walking Dead is a fantastic game, another fantastic Mantic game, and I'm really glad it's coming back. And one of the best things about it is just the tables you can make. You can play on a 2x2, but you can make such cool. Let's say, for example, I take the kids to a game shop, and I'm having a look at the little cars and trucks and things, going, maybe that would look good in Walking Dead. And so you could just do really, really cool things with the tables.
I think you can really set the scene. It's kind of what I have in mind also for Warpath, like Epic Warpath, as we mentioned. Like, it's not just you throw 3 buildings and 2 forests and a hill on the table to kind of make it a playable environment. You can really set a scene and create an environment, and then it's immediately a lot more immersive, and that's cool.
Yeah, and actually, funnily enough, I went through my terrain recently, and I'm reorganizing things. It's a huge project, but it's like one of the first comics. They go to a gun shop, and I think, oh, I've got this MDF gun shop. Oh, perfect. There we go. That's going to come in very handy. So as you say, Claim, it's very, very specific things. And with 3D printing and things like that, it's just incredible what you can do if you set your mind to it. It's just really exciting. And yeah, you've almost got this side hobby within the hobby of just making these beautiful tables. Super. So yeah, watch
real
this
quick,
space.
Chris. Got to give a shout out to Sabretooth Creations. He's are working on their first Kings of War army. So ambush and going after Clem's heart, it is goblins. So
I've seen it. Yeah,
welcome to the community.
Yeah, and I think it also made me happy because isn't that the person who said, oh, the fast mob sounds cool, but it's a bit late? And we said, oh, no, you can join anytime. Like, please jump in right now. Now is the best time to jump in. Like, anytime it's still on. Like, we launched it in December or whenever that was. Don't feel like you missed it. Like, it's always fast mob, right? Like, start anytime, and today is the best time to do it.
And Clem, you're doing goblins, and you've barely started, right? So
I'm more than barely started compared to you. Yes, I'm waiting for you to finish the army before I can actually go into it. You know, we have this special shtick together.
We've got a tag team system going.
Right.
On. Exactly.
You need to be bored with the army and move on to something else for me to jump into it.
Clem has got to procrastinate until I'm finished, and then he dives in. That's it. Absolutely. Yeah, Mark's done 6 different 500 points armies, you know, also even 600 points. Super. So Erasmus Berger. Hey, Erasmus asked a couple of questions. The first one we'll just touch on very quickly. Why isn't Warpath in God's own scale, 6mm? I'm very much not au fait with I'm very much not up to speed with what the benefits or negatives of 6mm versus 12mm versus 10mm versus 8mm, if that's a thing. So I don't know. All I can say is I think what Mantic have done looks fantastic in whatever scale it is in. So I'm happy, unless you guys have got anything to see.
Yeah, I mean, there's the official version, right? Like they've said several times. They didn't say, hey, let's make a 10mm game or let's make a 12mm game or whatever. They've taken Enforcer's like STLs of sci-fi stuff from their IP and printed them in different sizes, put them all on the table, thought about what they were actually after, like creative-wise, what type of games they wanted to make and so on. And then they said, that one is the one that looks the best. And then they measured and said, oh, that's about 12mm to the eyes for the Enforcer Captain or whatever model that was. And that's it. And that's the size. And even today, like the size of vehicles is not fixed. Like on the Kickstarter comments, there were people saying, oh, the vehicles are too small, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's still a work in progress. We are figuring it out, what we can fit in the sprue and so on and so forth. So that part is not like a commercial decision and so on. I think lots of people might be after 6mm because if I'm not mistaken, that's the original Epic, like 40K Epic.
Which
scale.
I had actually as a kid. I had that.
I've never touched any of that back in the day, so I don't have fond memories or anything like that with this game. I think having smaller infantry, so like 6mm, because I did buy some 6mm miniatures to basically do a travel version Space Hulk, if you want the whole story. So even smaller than 6mm. It lets you do different stuff, but I am happy they didn't go for that small infantry, because I do want to see the models that I have in Firefight also in smaller scale, like the actual zombies. I do want to actually see zombies and bursters and leapers and aberration and all of this stuff. And I don't want to have them like be just a grain of rice or something, like
a small blob.
Yeah, small blob with 3 dots of color on them, and like, oh, trust me, that's a zombie. And so I think I will enjoy a lot more having the firefight models, or like the Warpath models, in a slightly larger scale, so like 10 mil, 12 mil, whatever for your human, than having them much smaller. I don't need to have the mules be like 5 millimeters long for it to work on the table. Actually, slightly bigger would be better.
And dear listener, if you want to hear more about this fascinating topic, check out the Mup short that Clem and Mark made with the game designer.
That is true. We had an episode on this. And then for a completely different topic, right? Next question from the Sammy Rasmusberger. So, there were a fair number of Ophidia references and lore hints in the Twilight King lore. That is correct. How strongly does that point to Ophidia as the mystery release for this year?
Well, sorry, Clem, just before you get into it, they were talking about Ophidians quite a lot in the Sands of Amun box as well, when there was the free story, when they obviously the Empire of Dust. So they've been hinting at it for a little while. And sorry, I'll just put myself back on mute.
No, that's absolutely true. I would say that's a decent candidate. So I have two kind of hesitations about it. One is I am not so sure anymore that Mantic will do a third Kings of War army release in 24. Like, from what I've seen of the calendar now, I would be happily surprised if they pull it off, but I'm not certain it's really coming. We'll see. I guess November is in quite a while from now, right? And then, what would they even do with Ophidia, right? Like, it's
that's a great question, buddy. I mean, if we remember, Clem, we did it. Do you remember we did a Pannilore section on Ophidia at least a year ago now, and they were raising the undead, but in an ethical way. Do you remember? You signed your grandpa signed up before he passed over, and you can. We won't get him to do anything embarrassing. We won't make him wear a silly hat.
So that part I understand. What I'm saying is,
but how does that play style be significantly different from Empire of Dust, or look different?
Exactly. So when you have Empire of Dust, how do you make Ophidia something else entirely? Or because right now Ophidians, you can play it with what's his name, like good Jarvis, right? So the way it is right now is basically everything undead. Definitely they wouldn't do that if they brought Ophidians back, right? I hope. Like, they wouldn't just take this as a occasion to update the undead range and just call them now it's Ophidians and not undead. Like, they would probably look different. But to me, although I agree with the hints from the lore and so on, and Matt has been known to put all of the evidence in plain sight, spread out in all of the various pieces that are released, I don't see how to do Ophidia. Maybe it's a good sign. It means I will be pleasantly surprised, and it will definitely be a surprise with whatever they come up with if they do Ophidia. What do you think, Mark?
Well, I know Matt was working on an army list for them, and I know that the hints we got when we were at Clash said it was an existing army, so that's why Ophidia is off my radar. So it's supposed to be in a current army that doesn't have any plastics. So, Ophidia is not a current army, so that eliminates it from competition. So,
according to some definitions, you could argue that Ophidians already exist in the lore. Maybe what they meant when they said it's an existing army, like they're not coming up with the blooms that come from the deep forest or whatever, like something we've never heard about. Ophidians are solidly anchored in Pannithor. So
I guess you could call Jarvis their army with the good undead and all, but I don't know. To me, I just ruled them out. I'd be happy to be wrong.
I'm just going to say as well, I really hope that Mantic avoid doing stuff. I think there must be a real temptation to do stuff because it's quick, cheap, and easy. And I hope they don't do that. I love the fact, the last couple of armies, they've really thought about it, mantified it, and brought something to the table that's really fresh and interesting. And I think if you just take some EOD models and some undead models, they already have put out a couple of, a new Jarvis model, boom, there you go. There's your Ophidians. I feel like that's a wasted opportunity because I think it could. I'm not entirely sure what it could be, but I think there's something interesting, potentially very interesting there. But it would take work, and I'd much rather if they're not going to do it properly. Sorry, quote unquote properly.
Take time. Yeah,
I would rather they just wait until they're ready to do it. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, I feel like it's a missed opportunity.
You know what it made me think about? One thing they could have done is, but that's also self-serving, put the Forces of the Abyss and put it as the end of year release with a major redesign. So putting out as many plastic as they did with the Twilight Kin and really push the Force of the Abyss as this is really Mantic's Force of the Abyss, demons, blah, 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 all this stuff, and really expand on this. And then as the second faction with only 2 sprues, do Ophidians kind of as you described, because maybe it's not that bad after all, right? If they are so close to Empire of Dust after all, maybe they could reuse some of the kits from Empire of Dust with some additions like different units. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally, Clem. I mean, it's not just reusing. I have no problem with them reusing the hard plastic EOD kits. They're nice kits. They look nice. No problem. But to me, there should be a significant difference in play style between the two. There should be meaningful differences. And yeah, I want it clearly differentiated between the two in lore, in story, in play style, in everything. That Ophidia is its own thing. It's got interesting reasons to play it all in itself. It's not just undead with the word good slapped on it.
Yeah, no, that part is interesting. I think so they could make it how is that called, like a theme list for EOD instead of undeads, for example.
Which, from the lore, I think it should be. Like,
yeah.
It should be, right?
Or kind of again reuse some of that plastic, but then come up with some more unique combinations of rules, like they've done for the more recent stuff, right? Like the Northern Alliance that rely on frozen stuff, for example, like the Tundra Fighter or whatever it's called. This type of mechanics, and just have a different one when you are from the Ophidian side. I don't know, but I completely agree with you, buddy. Like I'd rather they take their time and make something really interesting rather than try to rush it out of the door.
And I would love a new 2-player starter, which is Ophidians versus Empire of Dust, because they are natural enemies. They are geographically close to each other. That would be super, super cool. From Mantic's point of view, you can probably get away with putting a load of sprues in there, and the player can pick which one they want to build them as.
Right.
And if they can figure out, whether, okay, so if you're an Ophidian player, right, you've got your tough undead stuff, but every turn, your units, all the zombies or all the skeletons get together and put it to a vote. Are we still happy being skeletons? You have to roll the dice.
Bad guys?
No, we want to. No, we want to go back to the grave, and then the unit's gone. That's it. We voted, we unionized, we voted. We don't want to be zombies anymore. Okay, right, back to the grave with you. So, I mean, obviously, I'm joking, right? But there's got to be some meaningful difference, and some advantages, some disadvantages over EOD, because actually, if there was a box set like that I just invented myself, I'd be totally down for getting that starter box. I think that would be super cool. I think there's some really interesting stories we could tell with it, but only with some meaningful differences.
So we don't know if they are coming, but if they are coming, we're ready for them.
Oh, I'm so
that's your answer,
right? Exactly. I'm so ready for this thing that I've imagined now. Super.
And, I guess it kind of answers or hints at the next and last question from our friend Mud. It's been pretty quiet on the KOW fronts. What are you guys looking forward to Trident release? Yeah, so I think we've talked about it earlier in the pod, right? Like Mantic is probably very busy with other stuff right this second, and so our attention is probably more onto that in the short term. Trident release, I am eager to see what they do with it, like actually see the plastic in the flesh. I will not be making an army for them, at least not right now. Maybe I'll grab a ambush starter box or the next 2-player starter sets with them in it, as I've done so far. And yeah, what about you guys?
Well, I'm looking forward to the Trident Realm and the Abyss. I would imagine that would be our next 2-player set. And it has been quiet. And, if we weren't so into Epic, I guess we would be wondering the same thing. So if small scale sci-fi is not exciting you, yes, you're kind of in a boring zone. And then, everything that's going to be coming out with Halo pretty soon. So it's going to be a while before April rolls around. So hopefully, Mantic can keep us a little interested, KOW wise. So, but, our turn is coming. It ebbs and flows. And, sometimes it's all Kings of War all the time and everybody else is bored. So.
Yeah, and if you look at the vaults, there's still plenty of stuff to be excited about in the vault every month for Kings of War. Like if you're a Salamander player lately,
I'm loving it.
Happy, right?
My Rhinosaurs are out and the Tyrants. So vault. I'm loving it. Not that I can even print any of them right now, but yes, I'm very excited that they're out. Absolutely thrilled. And you are absolutely right, Clem. The vault keeps people say the vault is too Kings of War oriented. So,
I mean, for the most, and just I know we're pushed for time, guys, but if you think about it, for the most part, Kings of War is obviously it's what pays the bills for Mantic. Generally speaking, they're pretty well served in terms of releases and schedules, etc. And it's unusual that Mantic Sci-Fi gets as much love as it's had in the last year or so, right? Which is all for the good, as far as I'm concerned. Command protocols, etc., and obviously the new epic scale game, Halo, coming, as we know. So, I've talked about what I'm working on Kings of War wise on the last monthly, and I'll finish off. Still loads to do with Twilight Kin, and I want to go back at armies I've done pretty quickly and just put some more love into them. My Riftforge Orcs, my Empire of Dust, etc. So I almost certainly, I will be doing a Trident Realm army. I love it, but probably not this year, probably next year or something along those lines. I'm not in a rush to start new projects at the moment because I've got so much I just want to enjoy that I already bought, right? So I'll be playing the Sad Elves this year for sure and just enjoying what I have. And
there you go. I'm only just sad Trident Realms isn't bringing placoderms and hard plastic. So I hope they're coming in resin or something else with the release. So, but I just think we need placoderms.
In the vault. In the vault.
Get in the vault.
But yeah,
vault.
I'm sure Chris, you'll get one ambush box of the new Trident Realms just to check out the nice sprues. Come on, you muted yourself, buddy.
At minimum. So
yeah, I could easily see myself doing 500 points. I just love the undersea weirdos, right? It's really my jam, so I could see doing it. Super, guys. Before we wrap up the show, any final thoughts?
Let me check if I finally have my GCPS. Not that I've been doing updates on the Kickstarter page every hour for the past 10 days. But I have not quite, but getting close. So when we started, we had £1,200 each. Now it's only £900 each, something like that, right?
Bargain.
Or
we're getting close. We're almost to 223,000. So
so
getting
maybe,
very, very close.
Maybe when I wake up, I'll have the good surprise of yay GCPS.
Yay. We only have 4 days left too, so we got to get going. So hopefully they'll drop something very exciting at the end that'll get everybody to pump back up again. So
right,
fantastic. And thanks to Steve for joining us for as long as he could. As always, pleasure to have him on. Clem, Mark, thank you so much, guys. Mark, do you want to take us out, buddy?
There you go. Well, hey everyone, just always remember, so much universe, so little time.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, dear listener.